To today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is April 14th, 2026. This meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please let us know. This meeting of the ZBA is being conducted remotely in accordance with Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and shall afford adequate alternative means of public access via Microsoft Teams by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, and then you punch in the ID number, which is 306-810-998, and then hit the pound. Or you can join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue/hearing or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. The meeting will be conducted as follows. We'll have a roll call of all members to authorize this form of hybrid meeting. Then I would ask that any citizens and non-board members participating in the call via the phone, please give us your name and the last four digits of your phone number for ID purposes. The hearing notice will be read by the lady to my right. This is Sarah B. Clark. She's the PPO for the town. That's the Principal Permitting Officer. Following that, the individual who submitted the application or appeal or their representative will have a presentation. Then I would ask that anyone in favor of the appeal or the application who wishes to speak to do so by notifying us here by raising your hand or on the screen with a hand provided that Sarah can recognize you and introduce you into it. Following that, I would read any and all letters received by the board. Then we would ask that anybody who wishes to speak against the appeal or has a specific question to do so, again with the same process. Raise your hand if you're here or on Microsoft Teams so that Sarah can recognize you. Following that, the board members may direct questions to anyone present who had anything to do with the presentation. Then we would close the hearing and go into deliberation. The deliberation consists of a discussion amongst the 8 of us here as to how we feel about it and how we wish to vote. The public is not invited to participate in that discussion unless a member of the board invites you into it. We would then have a vote, and in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you need to have a supermajority to be successful. In our case, that means there are 5 votes. To be successful, 4 have to be in your favor. A simple majority of 3 to 2 does not bring success. So we will start by having a roll call of all board members to authorize this form of meeting. Buck? They all went out.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, mine's up.
Mine too. 5-minute recess.
Yeah.
This is Buck, and I vote in support of the format.
All right, Bill.
William Grau, I support the format.
Meg?
Megan Story, I support the format.
Paul Semple, I support the format.
I'm David S. Nixon, and I'm in favor.
David R. Thompson, and I am in favor.
Randy Potash, in favor.
David H. Veach, and I am in favor.
Okay, the first order of business is the minutes from our last meeting. Paul?
I'll move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need a vote on that, Buck.
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes.
Dave T?
Dave T. votes yes.
AV?
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes, that's a unanimous vote. Sarah?
The representative for our first hearing is not here.
Okay, then we will go on to Thad. Thad's here. So we'll start with 22-021.
Application number 22-021, Thomas Fontaine and Maureen Sullivan, care of Thad Eldridge, 1038 Main Street, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 48 Strong Island Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 12M, Block 21, Lot C6. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the construction of a front entry, dormers, and decks. The existing dwelling is nonconforming, and that it is located partially within the Coastal Conservancy District, floodplain elevation 11. The proposed front entry, dormers, and decks will remain nonconforming, being located 2 feet from the Coastal Conservancy District where a 50-foot setback is required. Also proposed is the expansion of the existing driveway as allowed by special permit under Section 4A3D. The existing building coverage is 2,039 square feet, 15.1%, and the proposed building coverage is 2,110 square feet, 15.6%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 13,500 square feet of buildable upland, where 20,000 square feet is required, and 20,927 square feet of land area, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D2B of the Protective Bylaw.
Thad, welcome back to the fold. It's great to see you again.
Great
Floor
to
is
see all
yours.
of you. Kind of surreal to be here in person. I almost want to put on a mask to hide. So for the record, Thad Eldridge, East Southeast. The applicants are on the line, Mrs. Sullivan and Mr. Fontaine. They've purchased 48 Strong Island Road, which really has frontage on both Strong Island and Fox Hill. And the property is in need of some sprucing up. There's a set of stairs going over a coastal bank to the lower driveway. It's old railroad ties. There's a set of stairs on the north side of the building heading around the property, railroad ties in stone. The dormer leaks, and they're looking to replace that and remedy that. And they're looking to expand the second floor with additional dormer additions. So the other item, the existing deck exists over the floodplain, and we're going to reconstruct a deck that's no longer over the floodplain, and that will bring the house a little more into conformity while still being non-conforming. So there's a stoop entry that's proposed off the north to the front driveway, and a few other things to spruce up. So going through your criteria, the building coverage is increasing slightly from 2039 to 2110. This is similar in mass to the other properties in the neighborhood. Those homes range from about 1,750 to 3,000 square feet of coverage. So right in that Goldilocks zone that we like. The setback to the Coastal Conservancy District is being bettered with the deck. The front stoop is going to be closer than having no stoop, but it's still not as close to the Coastal Conservancy District as the existing house. The proposal will have minimum impact on the neighboring properties, and Sarah did read in, we had originally proposed to expand the driveway below. The planning board was not keen on that proposal, and we've taken that off the plan. So it'll be the existing driveway that exists there today. The stormwater runoff does flow into this low area, and that will be completely revegetated, and it will keep the runoff from going on to the abutting property. So we do have the dormers that are going in. That will change the streetscape slightly. There's one dormer that's there now. The others are compatible with it. It is a residential structure, which is compatible with the neighborhood. We have a compliant Title V septic system, or grandfather Title V. And we're not really changing the, well, we are changing the traffic a little bit. The existing driveway, heading from the garage below onto Fox Hill, has poor sight lines, and that burning bush is an invasive plant. That will be removed, and the Leland cypress behind it is a non-native, and that will also be removed. So that'll certainly better the sight lines for these folks and people driving down the road. The utilities are adequate, And that's about it for your criteria. If there are questions, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this? If you're here, please raise your hand. If you're doing this via Microsoft Teams, please indicate on the screen so that Sarah can recognize you.
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor of this application.
Then I'll read the correspondence. The first is from Ally Sabatino, the principal planner for the town of Chatham. She writes on April 13th, the planning board at their March 28th meeting reviewed the ZBA's request for comment on 48 Strong Island Road for the construction and maintenance of a driveway or roadway in the Conservancy District, quote, of minimum legal and practical width where no alternative means of access from an established way is available, end of quote. After review of this request, the planning board voted 6-0-0 to send a negative recommendation for the above reference request for comment. Then we have a note from Judith Giorgio. She's the health agent for the town. She writes on 4/12, I have no concerns regarding the proposed deck extension, front entry, or dormers at this property. However, the rear patio must not restrict access to the septic tank covers for proper maintenance. Then we have a note from Nicole Smith. She's the conservation agent for the town. She writes on April 14th, the application was approved yesterday and the order of conditions will be drafted and approved at the April 27th hearing. Then we have a note. This is from Allison and William Douglas. Their address is 665 Fox Hill Road. They write on March 11th, we would be grateful if you would forward this to the board. This is a note was to Sarah. We are abutting neighbors to Maureen Sullivan and Thomas Fontaine. We are familiar with their proposed plans that are currently before the board, and we write to express our full support for the project. And that's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this or has a specific question? If so, please raise your hand if you're here. And if you're in the audience, please indicate on the screen so that Sarah can recognize you.
I see no one that has a specific question or wishes to speak in opposition.
Okay, then we'll have questions from the board. Buck?
Buck has no questions.
Bill?
Was the planning board's only objection to in their comment to the driveway, the lower driveway?
That's the only thing the planning board can respond to. When we propose a driveway change within within a conservancy district, it has to go to the planning board for a recommendation to your board.
So it said the 13th, did it go back to them then, the plan?
It is not, because we're not doing anything to the driveway now, so
Okay.
no change would require no recommendation.
Thank you.
Sure. Megan?
Megan has no questions.
Paul?
I have no questions.
Dave T?
Dave T. has no questions.
Randy?
Randy has no questions.
Dave E?
Dave Veach has no questions.
Okay. Paul?
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
That takes a vote. Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes.
Dave T?
Dave T., yes.
Dave E?
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Bill?
If I were voting, I would have no objection to the plan and certainly think it's an improvement.
Megan?
I agree, it's modest, it's necessary, and I would definitely vote for it.
Paul?
This is certainly not more detrimental to the neighborhood. The line of sight improvements are definitely helpful. So I think it meets all our criteria.
Dave?
Dave T. Agrees with Paul, 100% in favor.
Randy?
I agree with Paul as well.
And I agree with all the previous.
Well, first I'd like to commend the representative for his brief and very concise presentation.
We always appreciate that.
Thank you. I feel that it does meet all of the criteria, and it's certainly not more detrimental to the neighborhood, so I will support it.
Paul, can you think of any reason this should be conditioned?
I don't think so. I think you can contain all of the work and equipment on site without any difficulty here.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, all right. I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay, we need a vote?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes?
Dave?
Dave T., yes.
Dave Veach votes
And
yes.
I vote yes, that's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, back to 22-006. I believe Mr. Riley is with us now.
Application number 22-006, Casa Investments, Inc., care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 322 and 324 Bridge Street, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map, 16B, Block 13, Lot 4A. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change two nonconforming dwellings on a nonconforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwellings and shed and the construction of two new dwellings and a garage. The existing dwelling at 322 Bridge Street is nonconforming in that it is located 15.6 feet from the road, 24.9 feet from the westerly abutter, and has a building height of 30.5 feet. The existing dwelling at 324 Bridge Street is nonconforming in that it is located 15.1 feet from the westerly abutter. The existing shed is nonconforming and that it is located 6.9 feet from the westerly abutter. The proposed dwelling at 322 Bridge Street will be nonconforming in that it will be located 15.6 feet from the road where a 40-foot setback is required, 13.4 feet from the westerly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required, and have a building height of 31.6 feet where 30 feet is the maximum allowed. The proposed dwelling at 324 Bridge Street will be nonconforming in that it will be located 13.8 feet from the westerly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The proposed garage will be nonconforming in that it will be 18.1 feet from the westerly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 23,724 square feet where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw. This was continued from February 24th, 2022.
Good afternoon, Bill Riley on behalf of Casa Investments. We're still in the redesign phase. After the comments we received at our last meeting, so we'd like to continue this to the second meeting in June.
Sarah, is that date available?
June 23rd is still available.
Okay. Questions? Buck?
No questions.
Bill?
No questions.
Megan?
No questions.
Paul?
No questions.
Dave?
Dave T., no questions.
Randy?
No questions?
Dave H?
Dave Veach has no questions.
You almost did, though.
I'll move to grant the requested continuance to June 23rd, 2022.
Dave Veach seconds.
That needs a roll call vote.
Buck votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
Dave T. votes yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Sarah. 22-023.
Application number 22-023, Edward J. and Teresa Charbonneau, care of William G. Litchfield Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owner of property located at 69 Bishop's Terrace, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14H, Block 56, Lot 104. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing dwelling is nonconforming and that it is located
Thank you.
33.9 feet from the road where a 40-foot setback is required and 15.7 feet from the easterly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The proposed addition will comply with all bulk and dimensional requirements of the bylaw, but is considered a substantial alteration, and under the second accept clause of Section 6 of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, such substantial alteration requires the grant of a special permit. The existing building coverage is 2,008 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 2,398 square feet, where 2,900 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 22,903 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Mr. Litchfield.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Ed and Terry Charbonneau. Ed is here in the audience today. I have tremendous respect for Sarah and the way she reads legal ads, but when I heard it, significant alteration. It's really a pretty insignificant alteration. So following Mr. Upson's urging, I will try to be brief. The Charbonneaus have owned this house for almost 30 years, and they're looking forward to retiring down here. They'd like to have a larger first-floor bedroom. All of the bedrooms are first floor, but they'd like to enlarge the one behind the garage. Perhaps Sarah could put up the site plan, which you know from having been out there, we have 2 lots. It's going to stay for zoning purposes as 1 lot. We have a lot that is twice the size of anything else in the neighborhood, and what the Charbonneaus would like to do is to the sort of lower right side, add a proposed addition, thank you, Sarah, which will meet current zoning setbacks. We will still be significantly below coverage. As you know from your site visit, there's a hedge and a fence and everything else out there that you can't see. So I will go into the criteria and try to be brief. We have a half-acre site, which is more than adequate. It's certainly adequate for the addition of 294 square feet of additional coverage at the rear of the house. It meets all dimensional and bulk requirements. Coverage will still be the lowest in the area, and that's sort of a segue into the second criteria rather, which is on the 3rd page of the attachment. All of the lots in this 1961 subdivision were created under the old R10 zoning. This is the only parcel in the neighborhood that consists of 2 lots. The house is currently comparable to others in the neighborhood, and if you approve the special permit, it will remain compatible. A small addition at the rear meets coverage and setback requirements, is not visible, and we will still be among the smaller houses in the neighborhood, second lowest in area by percentage comparison. There is no increase in nonconformity. Our existing nonconformities are the proximity of the house to the street. Under current zoning, it's 40 feet, and sideline is 25, where we are 15.7. To be perfectly frank, right where that cursor is, actually, Ed asked me if he could get a generator in. And I said, sadly, that would require a variance, which makes very little sense. When the house itself, he could put it on the other side without any relief at all, but it would cost a small fortune. But I had to give him the bad news that we can't ask for a generator because it's a new nonconformity. So it goes. As to scale, citing mass, views, and vistas, there's a single-story home typical of the neighborhood. The addition is at the rear will have no effect on scale, sighting, or mass. It's behind a stockade fence, as you know. And you will also, or the chair will read, letters from a couple of the abutters who have been consulted. We thought we would limit the number of letters to 3 or 4 rather than 40 or 50 that you'll be reading later this afternoon.
I think that's 73.
We could get more if you'd like. There's still time, but we shan't for this hearing. As to impact on traffic flow and safety, there is none. Adequacy of water and sewer is unchanged. The health agent has no concern. There's no change in the number of bedrooms. So the question, as you know, is whether the proposed change is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than is the existing house. I think that you can clearly find that this small addition at the rear behind a stockade fence is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. In fact, it is not at all detrimental. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here or on Microsoft Teams that would like to speak in favor of this application?
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
So I'll read the correspondence. The first is a memo. This is from Judith Giorgio, the town's health agent. She writes on 4/12, I've reviewed the plan to add an addition to this property. There will be no increase in septic flow. The addition will not encroach on the existing septic. I have no concerns. And then we have an email. This is from Suzanne Horn. It was dated April 8th. I received a notice from the ZBA in regards to the addition that they wish to build on their home at 69 Bishop's Terrace. I received and reviewed their plans. As a result, I am supporting the renovation addition request for said property. It is my opinion that they have designed a tasteful addition that blends well with the neighborhood. My property is on Shane Drive border, the corner and rear of the Charbonneau property. And she lists her specific address as 222 Shane Drive. Then we have a note. This is from Lori Gallup. She writes on April 7th, I own the property at 232 Shane Drive. I'm writing in support of the application to make some changes to the home to allow for more living space. As a close abutter to this property, I fully support the request, which will have no negative consequences for our neighborhood. I urge the ZBA to approve the request. Then we have a letter. This is from Sina and Chris Sakowski, 61 Bishop's Terrace. This was received on April 7th. We are neighbors to 61 Bishop's Terrace. We recently received the notice for the addition the family wishes to make to their home. We discussed the work with our neighbors, and we are writing to the ZBA to offer our support for the project. The work is similar to many other additions locally and consistent with the character of the neighborhood. And then lastly, we have an email. This is from the Viola family, and that's Richard and Brenda. They are the trustees, 11 Air Lane. They write on April 5th, we offer approval of our neighbor's application for construction of an addition to their home. Ed and Terry informed us of their desire to expand their living space. As we are one of their rear abutting neighbors, we have no objections. And that's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone here or in Microsoft Teams that would like to speak against this application or has a specific question?
I see no one that wishes to speak in opposition or has a specific question.
And we'll have questions from the board. Megan?
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
Dave?
Dave T., no questions.
Randy?
Randy has no question.
Dave Veach, no questions.
Buck has no questions.
No questions.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Veach seconds.
Takes a vote. Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes?
Dave T?
Dave T., yes.
TV?
Dave Veach votes
I
yes.
vote yes. Deliberations, Paul?
It looks like a nice addition. Certainly is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. Meets our criteria.
Dave T. agrees with Paul.
And I agree as well. Oh, sorry.
As do I.
Buck?
And I agree with my previous voters.
Bill?
I'll go along with the crowd.
Megan?
I agree. I think it's the epitome of fitting into the neighborhood.
Okay. Paul, do you think we need to condition this in any way, shape, or form?
I don't think so. I assume that construction vehicles and so forth could be contained on site. And I don't think there's any need for conditions. I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
Okay.
Dave Veach seconds.
Vote, Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes?
Dave T. votes yes.
Dave?
Dave Veach votes
And
yes.
I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Litchfield.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Sarah, 22-010.
Application number 22-010, Chris Dietrich, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 146 Strong Island Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 13M, Block 42, Lot C45. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling and swimming pool. The existing dwelling is nonconforming in that it is located 36.5 feet from the road and entirely within the Coastal Conservancy District, floodplain elevation 11. The proposed dwelling will be nonconforming in that it will be located 36.8 feet from the road where a 40-foot setback is required, and within the Coastal Conservancy District where a 50-foot setback is required. Also proposed is the installation of a fence and driveway as allowed by special permit under sections 4A3A and 4A3D of the protective bylaw. The existing building coverage is 2,601 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 2,527 square feet, where 2,800 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 0 square feet of buildable upland where 20,000 square feet is required, and contains 31,823 square feet of land area where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D 2B of the Protective Bylaw. This was continued from February 24th, 2022.
Good afternoon, Bill Riley on behalf of Chris Dietrich. This is a proposal to take an existing building and replace it with a new building. New building's gonna add a bedroom, be 2 stories, 3 bedrooms. Can you put up the building plan, Sarah? This is a design by Eric Tolley. So we're in the floodplain, so the building has to be elevated above the flood elevation. After we initially filed, we learned that the engineer had made some presumptions about Chatham that were not accurate. So we had to redesign the driveway, the septic system, and what was supposed to be a patio adjacent to the building. So, but the footprint is virtually the same. I think it's 8 square feet larger than the existing building. It's a neighborhood of, in general, substantial buildings. We did go to the planning board, and they have given a positive recommendation regarding the driveway, which we've substantially reduced in size. I think that if you have been through the neighborhood, I think you'll find that this structure fits very well in the design aspects. We have Andrew Garrelay is online, I believe. Okay. So we've been to the Conservation Commission several times, and they'd approved the building before we did our final revisions with the plan. I know there's an email from Nikki indicating that we have to submit this plan to them, but she doesn't anticipate any difficulties with getting approval for this design, since it removes all the fill and reduces the size of the driveway substantially. Another benefit of this is we're increasing or improving the septic system design. Right now, it's a standard system that doesn't meet the required distance from groundwater, and so the new system will, which constitutes an improvement. The structure around the pool is a deck, not a patio. Patio would require fill, so we can't do that. But we meet the setbacks on that side. So I think it's an improvement to the neighborhood, and we think it'll be a real benefit. So I'd like to go through the criteria. So adequacy of the size of the site in terms of the size of the proposed use. The existing building is 1,173 square feet, and the proposed building is 1,181 square feet, an increase of 8 square feet. This is a modest 3-bedroom dwelling in a neighborhood of significant homes. And of all these, probably one of the smaller ones in the neighborhood, with a footprint of less than 1,200 square feet. But we believe it's compatible with the other properties. Increase in nonconforming nature. Because we're increasing the living area on a nonconforming lot, that is a presumed intensification of a nonconformity. That would be the only increase in nonconformities. Suitability of the site, including but not limited to impact on neighboring properties, the natural environment, including slopes, vegetation, wetlands, groundwater, water bodies, and storm water runoff. Because the lot's located completely in the floodplain, the construction, which has already been approved by the Conservation Commission, although not this current plan, will have to be done in accordance with FEMA requirements. There's actually significant improvement because right now the driveway is substantially larger than we proposed, so we're reducing hardscape in the floodplain by about 900 square feet. The principal changes from the plan previously approved by the Conservation Commission had to do with the fact that we brought fill in and had a larger driveway. And so those things are, all fill has been removed from the project, so there's no fill being added. And the driveway has been reduced in size. So we think that the site is suitable for the proposed work. Impact of scale, siding, and mass on the neighborhood visual character, including views, vistas, and streetscapes. With a footprint of less than 1,200 square feet, we believe this is one of the smaller projects, smaller houses in the neighborhood. And I think Eric's done a good job with his kind of traditional summer Cape House design. We don't think we're interfering with anybody's views or vistas, and we think it's improvement of the streetscape over the existing structure. Compatibility of the proposed use with the neighboring uses, a single-family residence in a single-family neighborhood. A method of sewage disposal, we're actually improving things with the new septic system that will meet all current state guidelines for septic systems, particularly distance from the groundwater. We don't think there'll be any impact on traffic flow and safety because it's just a single-family home. And I would say 9 and 10 are not applicable. So that would be our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Riley.
We're working on brevity here.
Okay, we appreciate that. Sarah needs to correct something.
So Bill, the site plan as shown on the screen reflects a patio.
No, that's what I said, it's not a patio, it's a deck.
Right, the legal advertisement is giving the setback to the house, not to the deck, so the 36.8 feet. So there's two options. Continue, re-advertise with the correct setback, because there's no setback to the deck shown on the plan, or proceed and then come back and modify the special permit at a future date. That way construction could potentially commence to reflect the deck rather than the patio.
Yeah, see, and this is the curse that the three-page advertisement brings to us, because you put all this information and it's simply saying we need a special permit to build a new house. So we would take the least painful option, which would be move forward and then modify.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor or on Microsoft Teams wishes to speak in favor? If so, please indicate now.
Eric Tolley, the architect, has his hand raised.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Eric Dolly at EIC Architects. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Would you put up the house plans?
I apologize, but I wanted to head you off before you went much further. Based on what I saw, you do not have the correct building plans. No, in fact, you definitely don't. So I would respectfully request that you continue this to the next hearing so that we have some time to better coordinate and get you the right plans, please.
Okay, well, we could not put it to the next hearing. You'll have to accept a date in June. Mr. Riley, you're representing these folks. Any comment? Yeah, well, I know you have a comment, but let's keep that to yourself. How about, would you like to ask for a continuance to, say, the first meeting in June or the second meeting in June?
Eric, do we have new plans?
There are new plans, but the plans I'm seeing on the screen are not reflective of what the work that was done after we ran into the fill issue with the planning board.
Okay, so if you have space on the first meeting in June, I'll suggest that.
So that's June 9th, I believe.
9th.
Mr.
Bill,
Chair,
At that
Yes.
point,
how do we get June 9th when previously we did June 23rd?
That was Mr. Riley's request.
Yeah, because we need that time for the redesign.
Yeah. This is a little different bug. So anybody have any questions?
Bill, I would just request that if John O'Reilly is able to revise the site plan to reflect the deck and the
Yeah, I'll
setback
do
there,
that.
I'll put the correct number in.
Oh, great, sure, that'd be good.
Okay.
I'll move to grant the request to continuance to June 9th, 2022.
Dave Veach seconds.
Takes a vote. Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes?
Dave?
Dave Thompson, yes.
Dave Vitros, yes.
And I vote yes, that's 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. You never know. Okay, Sarah, I think we are going to jump to 22-028.
Application number 22-028. Terry W. Eldridge, 9 Old Comers Road, Chatham, Mass. 02633, appealed the determination of the building commissioner that site plan approval is required for the reconstruction of a pre-existing non-conforming shed/garage issued on February 22nd, 2022 for the property located at 1038 Main Street, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 12F, Block 10D, Lot X38A. The applicant seeks to have the building commissioner's determination overturned. The property contains 28,046 square feet in an R20 zoning district. The applicant appealed under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 8 and 15, and Section 8D2A of the protective bylaw.
Welcome, Terry.
Thank you very much, and everything she's read so far pretty much describes what we're doing here, but I'd like to add that in the opinion letter, the zoning enforcement officer stated that there is site plan approval required because of a violation of a 1984 site plan. That is to say, the 1984 site plan does not depict the garage that was placed there in 1986, which only makes sense. And I would suggest strongly that the garage is pre-existing non-conforming pursuant to Section 7 of Chapter 40A, which I have outlined in my narrative to the board, and that no action was taken by the town within the requisite 10 years after the violation, and therefore it is pre-existing non-conforming, and that the zoning violation of the site plan has nothing to do with the fact the building exists there. It's protected. And because it's protected, we should be able to rebuild it in the same location. And that's basically my presentation.
Okay. Is there anyone here or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of Mr. Eldridge's application?
I see no one that wishes to speak in favor.
Then I will read the correspondence. This is from Nikki Smith, the conservation agent for the town of Chatham. I'm writing to inform you that on February 2nd, 2022, the Chatham Conservation Commission approved an order of conditions for the reconstruction of an existing storage shed, upgrading of stormwater controls, and mitigation plantings. The order was issued on Feb. 3rd, and it's valid for 3 years. She wrote that letter on April 14th. So I would now ask that, is there anyone here or in the audience who wishes to speak either against this or has a specific question? Mr. Briggs. For those who don't know, this is Jay Briggs, the Town of Chatham's Building Commissioner.
Building Commissioner, thank you very much. 40A7 does protect the structure as it currently exists. Any dimensional nonconformities may continue to remain as the structure would be considered legally nonconforming, not pre-existing nonconforming. However, the demolition and reconstruction of the structure would require site plan review, HBDC approval, a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals for the setback to the Inland Conservancy District, and excess and allowed building coverage, and a building permit. I'm not compelling Mr. Eldridge to relocate, remove, or alter the existing structure. As it currently stands, it is protected by 40A Section 7. I'm just saying that a demo rebuild is going to require all these other approvals.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Microsoft Teams? Rebuttal, Mr. Eldridge, or
No,
No.
I agree completely with what he said.
You agree with what was said?
Well, I agree with the citing of section 7, that it is a legally non-conforming structure.
Okay.
Beyond that, well, we won't go into that. I'll leave it up to the board to make a
Okay,
decision
very
one way or
good.
the other.
Okay, so we'll have questions from the board. Dave, you have any?
I have no questions of Terry.
Randy?
I have a question. Sir, your building that you have there now that's adjacent to the garage, that is not a single-family home as it stands, is it?
I hope not.
No, right. So isn't that the exception for you not to get a site plan if it was a single-family home?
That is one exception.
And you don't
The
have
other
that.
that's more specific in there is that, will the change be a new use? Will it be a new, establishing something new, erected, enlarged, or changed? And we're not doing any of that. We're not erecting we're keeping basically the same building that's there right now, but we're just rebuilding it. We're not meeting the thresholds under the bylaw for site plan review, is what I'm saying.
But you know the paragraph that I'm referring to, right?
Are you referring to paragraph number, the first paragraph under that section?
Yes.
And I furnished you with a copy of that, of the bylaw. Let me just, I do have it here, I'm sure of that, here it is. So it says, site plan approval shall be required for all uses except single-family dwellings and their accessory structures, approved home occupation, agricultural and fishing usage, roadside stands and those with, and I'm actually going to the wrong one, that's the applicability.
That's where you are, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're in the right one.
6A1.
So I'm just wondering how you get around that. And if I would put the same question to Mr. Briggs to respond to that paragraph. And
Yes,
Well, one of the criteria is change of use.
Right.
Use is only established by the issuance of a building permit, and there was never a building permit issued for the property.
Thank you. So that's pretty much the paragraph that brings us here, right?
right.
Yeah.
And it's actually the first section of that no use shall be established, erected, or enlarged, or changed except in conformity with the site plan. And in this case, it's established already, the use is established, it's already erected there, we're not proposing to enlarge it or change it. All we're doing is rebuilding what's there right now. And there's an exception to that, we do have a steeper roof pitch to it, which aesthetically is gonna look better with a steeper roof, but we could always go with a flatter roof if it's identical to what's there.
I don't doubt that it's gonna look beautiful,
Yeah,
but can you just listen to the building inspector one more time as he points out where there's a problem? Just listen really closely to him, and I think you'll see.
I see the issue that there is a change of use because use is only established by issuance of a building permit. There was never a building permit applied for or issued, so there is no legal use of the structure. The structure can remain where it is under 40A7. I don't have an issue with the current structure as it is.
Thank you. I don't have anything further.
and I would like to interject one thing, and that is, either way the board goes today, I'll be happy, because if you don't agree with me, then I don't have to rebuild it and I can save a lot of money. Alternatively, if you do agree with me, then I have to spend a lot of money, and I'm not sure I want to do that. It's been sitting there now for, if my math is correct, 86 today would be 35 years, 34 years? No, 4 and 2, 36 years. It's been sitting there in that condition, and it's been used for storage and a lawn tractor and whatnot in there, which I'd maintain the same use in the future.
Jay, just one question I have, Jay. You were listing some of the things that are required. is this in the HBDC? It's R20. Is this section in the HBDC, R28,
I
or is it
believe it
not?
does fall within the HBDC district, yes.
Because it was, huh. I'm just telling you, because I go back, way back with all of that, and
If I could interject on that for a minute. The bylaw says the HBDC districts were established by a certain map that's dated years ago.
that I know, yes.
Yeah, so that was in a
It-
limited business zone
At that
years
time,
ago.
it was an LB zone, okay.
Right.
All right, thanks. Yeah, aside from that, I think, I'm just reading all the stuff that's in front of us, and I think I understand the issue, so, thanks.
Buck?
Well, I don't think I've ever said this before, but I feel that I would love to be an attorney right now, because this is, I don't think I've ever said that before. But, it seems to be reading and interpreting stuff, and it's getting above my pay grade, so I'm just gonna shut up and wait for the next comment.
Okay, Bill?
I do not have any questions.
All right, Megan?
Oh, we're still in the questions. I am not confused by the definition that we're using for use being established. But who does the onus fall on when the town doesn't recognize that a building has been built without a permit? Doesn't at some point that mean that it has a pre-existing use? I mean, we have houses in the town that were built without building permits, presumably, because they've been around a while. So I'm curious to know where that line is drawn.
So if a permit was issued and we picked the wrong use, or we had
No, that I get.
a use that wasn't allowed, there's 6 years to catch it.
Okay,
So we issue the permit for
That's-
a use that's not allowed,
get it.
that's on us.
Yep, I get it.
That's protected. If they change the use,
No, I'm not asking that. I'm asking I put up a building in my yard. Nobody notices it for 36 years. Nobody tells me.
the
Nobody's-
structure is protected from dimensional nonconformities after 10 years if you don't get a permit.
Okay, so I understand that.
But there's no use
But
established
there's
with
no
it.
use established. But my point is that there are homes, single-family homes in this town that were built prior to building permits.
Prior to building
At-
codes also.
Prior to about everything, yeah.
Yep.
So at what point was use established for those?
I'm not an attorney either.
I know, you see the question though.
Yep.
Can't answer the question, but that's my question.
Right, well, town council had informed me that, trying to think exactly what he said now. He said, as soon as we become aware of a use, then there's no time frame on use. If there's a use that's non-conforming, we can go after it as soon as we find out about it. It could be 10, 20, 30, 40 years later. As soon as we become aware of the violation of use, we can go after it.
Okay, so this is that instance, we're going after it?
Well, we're not going after it. He's appealed my decision that special site plan approval is not required by the
Okay.
planning board. But on a demo rebuild, I see that it is, because now we're going to be establishing a use. It's like a change of use. If it was one use and they were doing a change of use to something else,
Well, yeah, except it's not a
then they
change
would
of
require
use.
site plan approval. So it's the same thing, kind of, because there is no
Not really.
use.
I mean, I agree there needs to be an attorney. I'm not an attorney, but I would disagree with that particular reasoning.
And if I may interject, the current use is a permitted use in a residential zoning district. That is a garage or a shed or whatever you'd like to call the structure. The garage door does not come down, so that's why it's been left up for the last 10 years, and it's pretty obvious to anybody driving by, it's storage of some sort. All the tenants throw their junk in there, and I clean it out every few years and tell them to take it, or it's going to be taken to the dump. But it is a use that's going on there that's permitted in that zone.
Could you demolish it without a permit, with no rebuild?
You'd need a demolition permit. We like to get permits for everything that's done in town.
Paul?
Well, I think all the questions I have been asked and answered, so I don't have any further questions.
Well, that just didn't say, well, I'm not a lawyer and join in the current. Paul is a lawyer. Okay,
I'll I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Dave Each seconds.
All right, a vote, Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Paul?
All votes yes?
Dave?
Dave T votes yes.
Dave?
Dave Each votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, we'll start with Randy.
And I'm a lawyer.
Yes.
And I'm proud of it, and I agree with the building inspector, and building, with Jay Briggs, based on the question that I asked and the interpretation. And just to respond to the dwelling, it's an exception, a dwelling. So you don't have to worry about that. If you have a house, you can use it as a house. That's it.
Well, I'm not an attorney, and it seems to me that based on what Jay has said and my reading of these sections of the bylaw, that certainly Jay has much more experience than I do with determining what things need various types of permits. But it looks to me as though I will support his decision that this requires a site plan. It's not, I mean, one of the things you could look here and say, well, it's site plans required for all uses except single-family dwellings and their accessory structures. And this is an accessory structure, but not to a single-family dwelling. It has apartments and a commercial use in the main building. So I don't think it falls under that. So it looks to me like a site plan would be required, and I don't know. I mean, Terry has said that he can't go, or he won't go forward if we support Jay's decision, but I would think that he could apply. I mean, he could submit a site plan. I don't think there's any reason he couldn't seek approval for a site plan for it. So I'm going to be supporting Jay's decision.
Buck?
Well, I usually feel 100% in support of the building inspector. And this one, I still feel that way. But I look at that small building, and I look at all the paperwork, and sometimes judges, when I watch stuff that I'm not qualified to watch and think, but I still look at it and I go, gee, there's somebody taking care of the little guy. And I'm kind of at a crossroads here. I want to support the building inspector. I feel that's, he knows 10 times more, maybe 50 times more about what we're dealing with than I do. But I think I'm on the fence, so I'm going to listen to a few more comments before I decide what I'm going to do.
Bill?
I'm not so puzzled by this one. To me, it's pretty straightforward. I think the language is there and that the site plan is required, and I would be in total support with what Jay is saying if I were voting.
Meg?
So I still have questions about the definition of use, but that being said, in this particular, well, I mean, I'm on the fence a little with Buck, because I think that there is a hardship of sorts having to do this type of paperwork and whatnot for what amounts to, looks like to me, a shed, especially in this town in this day and age. But that being said, I don't see any, I don't know, I mean, it's tough, because I don't want to not support the enforcement officer or the building instructor either. So I don't know, I mean, and it seems to me that if you file the site plan that it would get approved. So that's sort of, I guess that's not the best way to look at it, but I mean, if it would get approved anyway, it seems like if you could do that, you would. But I don't know, I'm on the fence.
Paul?
Well, I think I agree with Randy. Lawyers tend to agree on occasion, not often, but on occasion. It seems to me that what the building commissioner is saying is if you do nothing, if you leave it the way it is, it's fine. I'm not going to do anything about it. But as soon as you start to take action under it and make changes, then you have to comply with the ordinance. And the ordinance does require a site plan. And you've basically done all of the work for a site plan as it is now. So there's not a huge hardship involved in that. So I understand the idea that this requires a lot of paperwork, and unfortunately, that often in towns before zoning boards or any kind of board, it comes from experience, because paperwork was not required in a lot of different issues going back over ways, and it created problems. So it kept getting to, you need a survey, you need this, you need that, because they got burned on this one or they got burned on that one. So unfortunately, you're caught up in that situation, but I think you've done the work, so I would agree with Jay as to his interpretation.
Dave?
I'm sorry, Terry, but, but I'm going to side with Jay and Terry Wayne Eldridge. I hope you'll excuse me.
I'm actually pleased with the decision because now I don't have to spend all that money.
And you can use it for vacations.
Well, that too, but
Sure.
I just have a question. Because what happens in this kind of a case, like when you have a building like this, and so somebody doesn't want to rebuild it because of the permitting issues, and doesn't want to tear it down because of the permitting issues, and then it becomes just like, because in 20 more years, it's going to look really bad. And then it becomes like an eyesore or a danger. What happens then?
Well, he has the right to go to site plan review and do exactly what he wants.
I do
Yeah.
intend to replace the corner boards and shingles and roof
force it?
shingles.
Does
I
the town
assume
eventually?
Maintenance,
Maintenance.
yep, maintenance would be
Does
okay.
the town eventually force you if the
Well, I
building
mean, if
becomes
it gets
a
to a
nuisance? Like an
state of
attractive
disrepair,
nuisance.
it could be condemned and
And then
ordered
it
to be
becomes-
taken down or fenced in to
Yeah.
protect the
That was
public.
just, I was just curious.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote, Paul.
All right, I'll move to deny the application, excuse me, I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
So a yes vote would be voting for Terry. A no vote would be agreeing with Jay. Second it?
Dave Veach seconds.
Okay.
Make your proposal.
But
This is the hardest decision I've ever had to make. Well, close to it. My nature is to go for the little guy, and I'm not a big fan of, but nevertheless, no.
have you been watching Judge Judy? Paul?
There's still time to go to law school, if you want to, there's your chance. I'll vote no.
Dave T., no.
Dave Veach votes no.
And I'm voting no also. Thank you. So that's denied by unanimous vote. Thank you,
very
gentlemen. Okay. Here we go. So let's see, I've lost my, I found it, all right. 22-022.
Application number 22-022, Eastward Companies MBT LLC, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. Agreed vendee of property located at 410 Main Street, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 16D, Block 37A, Lot 8A. The applicant proposes to construct a single-family dwelling in a GB2 zone, which requires the grant of a special permit. The existing structure is non-conforming and is located 15 feet from the road and 9 feet from the westerly abutter. The proposed dwelling will be non-conforming, and that it is located 15.1 feet from the road, where a 25-foot setback is required, and 8 feet from the westerly abutter, where a 15-foot setback is required. Also proposed is the replacement of a retaining wall within the required 25-foot road setback. The existing lot coverage is 3,821 square feet, 44.5%, and the proposed lot coverage is 5,705 square feet, 66.5%, where 70% is the maximum allowed. The lot is conforming with 11,206 square feet, where 7,000 square feet is required in the GB2 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 3C, 4C, 26, and 5B of the Chatham Protective Bylaw.
Good afternoon, Bill Riley, on behalf of Eastwood Companies and Tara Owens, who is the owner of the property, sitting here in the front row with Bill Marsh. This is a situation where the existing structure, which has been owned by Tara for over 20 years, is in difficult condition. And so a reuse of the structure is almost certainly going to require, given the economics of trying to repair it, a new building. And so Tara has had the property on the market for a total of 5 years now. And in fact, the very first offer she received on the property was actually from Krista Mueller, who was the person leading the charge on the social media campaign that led to all the correspondence you have in front of you today. We believe her primary motivation in doing that is to drive the value of the property down so she can buy it for a lesser amount of money.
Don't you think that's really, just your opinion, Mr. Riley?
That is my opinion.
I don't think it's appropriate.
Okay,
I just don't.
that's all right. So Tara and Eastwood reached a deal, and Eastwood engaged Karen Kempton to design a home on the property. We went before the Historic Commission on a recommendation from Historic Business District Commission, and they determined that the building was beyond saving, and so they did not oppose the demolition. The HPDC approved the demolition and then approved the design of the building that's currently proposed by Eastwood. So Karen Kempton should be on our line. So if Karen would go through the design aspects of the building, I'd appreciate that.
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon. I'm Karen Kempton, architect for this project in 410 Main Street. The building that we are talking about is on the right-hand side of this photo. When designing the new home for 410 Main Street, we took direction from the existing building. We wanted to keep the new structure similar in mass and scale as the original front elevation. We felt that keeping the same distance and footprint from Main Street was important for the neighborhood aesthetic. The existing building is 28 feet wide at the street and abides by the left and right setback at the streetscape. The width of the proposed structure visible from Main Street is 24 feet wide with a 7-foot wraparound porch on the right side, and again conforms to the side setback at the front of the building. The first floor elevation will remain comparatively the same, only 3 inches higher, to allow for better drainage along the front. The proposed ridge height, again, will be comparatively the same, 3 inches higher, so that the structure height will match the existing structure height at 22 feet, 5 inches above the top of foundation. If we can go to the next photo. So again, this is a Google Earth image of the building and the surrounding area. And you can see the front elevation that we're trying to keep that same aesthetic, that same massing. The next photo. So although we were replicating the massing and scale of the front facade, we were not able to save the existing building. As you can see from the photo, the rear wall of the structure bows out and is leaning away from the first floor. And the next photo, likewise, the foundation shows signs of shifting away from Main Street. This may be due to the close proximity of the structure to the street and the increase of heavy vehicles over many years. HPDC and Chatham Historic Commission, which Phil mentioned, both agree this building is beyond the point of repair or restoration. Additionally, the proposed structure received unanimous approval from HPDC. So if we go to the next few slides. This again is a photo interior of the brick foundation just canting away from the street. Next photo. And the floor inside is bowing, left to right. Next photo. And the second floor is collapsing at a post. We can go to the next photo. So when designing the new structure, we noticed that there are abundance of Greek Revival buildings along Main Street. Most noticeably, the building across the street at 409 Main Street. We are proposing a similar scale Greek Revival front with similar block cornices, wide corner boards, white clapboard front, built-out rakes, and wide frieze. The second floor windows will be high in the gable front, which keeps the height of the structure lower than a full two-story facade. There will be a front covered porch, which are also present along Main Street. As I mentioned, the ridge height is similar to the existing house, and the first floor elevations. We can continue on. I think there's some pictures of front porches. So this is the house to the west of us. You can see our house is the car in front of us. This house to the left of us has a front covered porch. Our house will be, if you can barely see the front wall of the existing structure, that will be where our front covered porch is, and then the wall of the new structure will be additional 7 feet back. So pretty much in line with the covered porch of the abutter. Go to the next slide. This is showing various other homes, residences in this end of town, which kind of begins the mixed-use area of residence and commercial buildings along this area. Next slide. This is the house caddy corner across the street. Again, a Greek Revival with built-out rakes, heavy trim. Next slide. This is another residence, 2 down. Has a front porch. Next one has I believe, a front porch as well. Another residence. Yep, another Greek Revival style home. This one has a higher ridge because the second floor windows are within a 2-story wall. So ours will be much lower and lower massing than this one. Next one. This again is across the street, another Greek Revival on the right-hand side with a front porch. Next one. And here we are back to ours. The majority of the new structure will be hidden behind the front facade. The narrow lot lines on the left and right diminish the sight lines from Main Street to see the structure beyond. Next slide. Additionally, the sidewalk will be continued. You can see it abruptly stops sort of at the parking lot of the front of this building. So we propose to continue the sidewalk along the front of this and get rid of this dangerous parking area so it's more pedestrian friendly. If we can go now to the drawings, I'll just quickly go through the elevations. Here we go. So the front elevation, as you can see, ridge height 22 feet 5 inches, which matches the existing. The portion you see on the left-hand side that juts out about 6 feet is way in the back. You will not see that from Main Street, but of course you see it on the elevation. The right-hand side, the lower image. So as you're coming down the driveway on the right side, or maybe coming down the sidewalk, you might see that first full 18 feet of building, which again is just a small Greek Revival style facade. The wall and the second floor are recessed back behind that. So again, because of the sight lines, walking down the street, you won't see the rest of the house. You'll probably only see that front Greek Revival style house. If we go to the rear elevation, The rear elevation and the left elevation both show the deck at the rear and the drive-under garage. This deck aligns with our abutter's deck, although is 3 feet lower, and that allows open views through the rear of our property. Although this area does count as building coverage and is non-conforming within the setback, because we needed to have area to be able to turn into the garage, that's why we are over the setback line on the left-hand side. It is perceived only as a deck and not an additional first floor or second floor space. So we feel the massing of this doesn't add to the visual character of the house. Similarly, if we were to subtract the deck as building coverage and say the front covered porch, we would be at 15.9% building coverage. However, we feel a garage is important to a house to hide vehicles, and it does not add visible mass to the structure. Similarly, we feel that the front covered porch is an important feature to soften the look along Main Street. So we believe that this new construction is in harmony and in scale with the neighborhood and surrounding buildings. It is appropriate to the vernacular of Main Street and maintains the charm of this special street in Chatham. That is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is Andrew online too? Is Andrew Garrelay on the line? No, okay. I think the important thing to keep in mind, as Karen pointed out, is that although the floor area of the structure is quite large, the way Karen has designed it, with the east side wall being set back, so that when you're looking at the house from the street, even as you walk along the street, the large area to the rear, as you can see, as it steps back, really is not visible from the street. And the old Perry house, for those of you who are old enough to remember, which used to be over on Cross Street many years ago, has a very similar sidewall length, and the ridge height of that building is 7 or 8 feet above our ridge height, and that's not counting the turret or whatever you want to call the thing that sticks up front, which is almost 20 feet taller than our proposed ridge height. So I think it's a tough lot. I think Karen did a great job designing a home that would be suitable for a modern family who wants to live on Main Street without overwhelming the neighbors. And so if we want to deal with the criteria briefly, here it's because the property's in a business zone, we don't deal with building coverage as much. We deal with lot coverage. Lot coverage is allowed at 70%. Lot coverage includes driveways and stairways and things like that. So our lot coverage is about 66%, including the driveway. The building itself, footprint is 2,421 square feet, which in this day and age is not particularly overwhelming. Our setbacks are non-conforming on the west side, as it currently is, but they are conforming on the east side, the side towards 400 Main Street. And I think the real charm of Karen's design is the fact that the ridge as proposed for this structure is no higher than the existing ridge. So in reality, although it's a large house, when viewed from the street, all you're going to see is the facade, Greek Revival, classic Greek Revival facade that is 22 feet above the street level, so very modest. So we think the lot is adequate, or the site is adequate for the proposed design. Although our structure is larger in floor area than most of the residences in the neighborhood, although certainly not larger than the 400 Main Street, which is immediately adjacent on the east side. As it presents to the street, is really very compatible with the neighborhood. If you think about, the real estate office across the street, they have the sales area with the big windows, but if you look at the building behind it, it's very similar. The house just west of that, which formerly belonged to the Swans, is also very similar, narrow gable, Greek Revival. The building on the east side of Homestead is a cape, but the little guest house they have there is a Greek Revival. So it's, again, a narrow Greek Revival. So I think that Karen's design really is compatible with the other structures in the neighborhood. It does increase nonconformity. I sort of missed the front wall. I'm not entirely certain why that's nonconforming, but I take Sarah's word for it. But there is an expansion at the rear of the building where the garage is only going to be 8 feet from the sideline, where the existing building is 9 feet. So there's a change there. That's an increase in nonconformity. We believe that the site is adequate for the proposed work. There's no wetlands in the area. This lot is sort of the low point in the area, so we don't have to worry about runoff onto adjacent properties. And so we do believe that the site is adequate for the proposed construction. And so next thing is scale siting and mass and the impact on views, vistas, and streetscapes. I think, as Karen pointed out, given the adjacent buildings, particularly the Perry building, but also 400 Main Street, the extension from the back of the facade here is really not visible. And so in terms of streetscape, we believe that this structure, although the existing building is very cute, we think that this is an improvement on the streetscape. The existing structure is noted is sort of a 3/4 cape, but the plate line is higher than a traditional cape, and so it doesn't really fit that definition. So we think that something that, as Karen says, fits the vernacular really is an improvement on the streetscape. We're not blocking any views or vistas, and so we believe that this is a project that is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. The next section requests, are we compatible with neighboring uses? And I know that that's the bugaboo that has generated all 70 of those letters. And I think that the reality is that, as Karen showed on the picture from the assessors, can you put that up again, Sarah? Shows that, this is a mixed-use neighborhood. And so the addition, our lot, by the way, is 66 feet of frontage on the street. And we don't believe that putting a residence with 66 feet of frontage, particularly one as handsome as this one, is going to create a serious problem for the business uses, clearly were residents and not, compatible, I suppose, at some level with business uses. But I think that because there are other residences in the neighborhood, you could find that we're not incompatible. And it's been, there's been some discussion about the fact, I know I've spoken with people who feel that because the town is spending a lot of money on the parking lot next door, that the zoning board should require this property to remain commercial, and because they want to encourage people to walk down Main Street. And I think that because the town's improving the parking lot a little further to the east, the reverse is actually what's going to happen. People are going to park in the new parking lot with the gold toilets, and when they're done there, they're going to walk up Main Street towards the center of town. So I don't think, I understand the business community's concern. I noticed there was a letter from somebody in Laguna Beach. I don't think we're too worried about Laguna Beach, but the business community, I think they had a much more legitimate complaint when Helene Wilson, which would be 442, her family, after she passed away, her family wanted to convert that back into a residence. And the business community raised concerns, which I think were much more legitimate there than they are here. There you had a structure that was in very good condition, and in the center of commercial activity, where the foot traffic is on both sides of the street, is really important to all those businesses. Here we have a situation where we have a building, so you have to look at the economics. I know that you're not bound by the economics, but you have to look at the economics. And so here we have a building that, if you're going to buy it, you're buying a repair job, a fixed job. Actually, it's a demolition and a new building. And so, somebody who would want to come in and buy this building and start a new business is facing a very daunting task. And that's why in the 4 years that the property was for sale, they only received 2 offers, 3 offers counting bills. And as I say, the first offer came from Krista Mueller, who owns 400. So if it doesn't make any economic sense because you have to build a new building, and you don't have a business because you're going to start a business because there's no business there to continue. Economically, given the cost of construction, which I understand is about, in a commercial building, about $450 a square foot, we think that explains why there are no offers for the property other than Eastwood Companies. And I think that it's hard for me to believe that the commercial success of either 400 Main Street or the building directly across the street is tied to the fact that 410 must remain a business. It's a business now. I wouldn't call it a thriving business. I wouldn't call it a real driver of commercial activity at that end. It's, they sell knickknacks and things like that. So, so I think you have to have in mind, what's going on at that end of Main Street too. So that would be our presentation. I know Tara would like to address the board as well. Tara? Oh, you have to come up here. This is Tara Owens.
Hi. I just thought I would introduce myself to those who I haven't actually officially met, and just tell you a little bit about sort of my side, I guess, of the story. Even though I think Bill made a really valid point about how challenging it's been to realize that I need to let go of the property because I can't actually afford to take care of it like it needs to be taken care of, obviously. And to come to that decision and then not be able to find anybody who can afford to do that either. Apparently we had, I worked with Tim Bailey for 3 years. He did an awesome job marketing the property and trying to find the right buyer. But we showed it, I think, somewhere he thinks between like 25 and 30 times. And many of the people actually requested to bring in their own builder or to bring back somebody who, you know, could help them assess what their financial needs would be to renovate it and then be able to open up their business. And it was heartbreaking because every single time it didn't work. So, so then Bill stepped up, thank goodness, and said he could tackle that. And I'm actually really thankful. I understand because I've been on the east end of Main Street since 1996. And I understand all the concerns about losing businesses. But I sort of think the world is making it so that we're losing businesses anyway as far as retail, especially after COVID. And my concern now actually is what will happen if it's not able to be demolished and built back, because I truly feel like one day it actually might just fall over, literally fall over. And then the streetscape of Chatham would be really adversely affected. With do not cross these like ticketed lines because it's condemned. So I just wanted to tell you, because I think people don't know when you put a coat of paint on something, turquoise, and try to make it look lovely, they don't really know behind the scenes what's really going on with the property. So I just thought I would let you know my side, and thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Tara? Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Again, so the thought I'd like to leave you with before you begin the onerous task of reading the letters is that, do you really think that having this 66 feet of frontage on Main Street and be a commercial building is that crucial to the economic success of the businesses at the east end of Main Street? I don't think they are. And I think that once they finish the parking lot, there's going to be a lot of foot traffic moving from the east end towards downtown, and that they're going to see all the businesses that are active in 400. You know, they're going to see the new business directly across the street. As they walk towards Main Street, they're going to go by Odell's Jewelers. They're going to see all those things. And, you know, in terms of the economic impact of this remaining a commercial building, you know, I don't think it's worth, you know, the postage to mail all the letters that you got. Of course, nobody mails them anymore. They all come by email. But And I hardly think Mermaids on Main is a driver of commercial business in this area. And that, you know, the economic reality of the property does not lend itself to a switch to remaining commercial. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone here or on Microsoft Teams that would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Gentleman in the back.
Hi, Jamie. Jamie Bassett.
Thank you very much, Jamie Bassett, 14 Oval Road. Thank you to the Planning Board for allowing a little bit of time to speak, and through you, Chairman Nixon. So I wanted to just come and say that I am in favor of this project. I looked at the plans, and I thought that it would be fitting in the neighborhood. I've lived in Chatham for 52 years of my life, and I have seen changes on Main Street from one end to the other. And so I thought that given the current climate, the current business climate that many small businesses are facing these days, you know, I think we're going to continue to see situations like this where small businesses struggle to have a viable business. I've known Tara personally for a long time, and I know that she has done her best to make this a nice business that people can frequent at that end of town. I know that sometimes it might be difficult for people. There are no streetlights near that end, if I'm not mistaken. The sidewalk ends a little bit before her business. We're also facing the fact that e-commerce is now a driving force of the economy. Just as an example, for the U.S. Department of Commerce, e-commerce sales in total for 2021 were $870 billion. That was a 14.2% increase from 2020. And to give you a little context, in 2017, the total sales were $453 billion, with an increase of 16% from 2016. So the e-commerce is bearing down on Main Street USA and small brick and mortar stores, not just in Chatham, but all across the state, all across the U.S. I would also say that in trying to maintain a business through the onslaught of e-commerce in a small, seaside town, coastal community, a seasonal business at that, where the new parking lot at Eldridge Garage is pretty much empty for 10 months out of the year, it has been a challenge. Add to that the devastating impact of COVID, and you almost have a perfect storm for some businesses. I remember hearing from a small business owner in Chatham 20 years ago that really the area of highest business is pretty much between Tail of the Cod east to probably Puritan. So this business is outside of that, and that's not to diminish the efforts that Tara has made. The business has been in existence for 26 years. It has a Facebook following of 5,000 people. It has an Instagram following of around 800 people. But all of these people are not knocking down the door to buy seashells or to buy cast iron mermaids, although it's a wonderful environment when you do go back. And I read some of the letters that were also submitted, and I would say that I can't exactly pinpoint how many actual abutters there were, but I did read many letters that were from people from outside of town, from Connecticut and elsewhere. And unfortunately, these people aren't here during 12 months out of the year, and they may not appreciate the challenges that such a small business faces. So I would fully support this proposal. It is there's been precedent for this in this end of town. The Porch Fortune, which is on the corner of Main Street and Hallett Lane, that was once a restaurant called the Port Fortune. It's now a residence. Let's travel on up to the Dolphin Inn. That used to be a thriving business, and now it has with a restaurant, and that was changed into residential. Next door to Terra, that was the Beach Dog, I think, and that is now residential. So there has been precedent for this, and I would just leave it by saying, good job to Tara for trying to maintain a business in the perfect storm of an adverse climate of business. So I would urge the board to seriously consider this and seriously consider supporting this with a supermajority, this proposal. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor?
Just,
Sarah, do you
think so.
see anyone on Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, Dave, just want to make one comment. Tara mentioned the word condemned, which is inappropriate at the moment. The building is not condemned and is not, and should not be condemned. It's in really tough shape. And if you're going to buy it, you're going to remove it and replace it with something that's in better condition. That's all.
Thank you for clearing that up. I don't see anyone, Sarah, do you?
There is no one on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in support.
Okay. So now we have the correspondence, which is voluminous. And what's going to happen is all of us up here are going to read a couple of the letters. And you have to bear with us. It's going to take a while. So I'll start. The first is a memo. This is from Judith Giorgio. She's our Board of Health agent. She writes on 4/12, I have done a site visit to the existing dwelling and determined it to be an existing 4-bedroom dwelling. Therefore, the plans to reconstruct the property as a 5-bedroom dwelling with municipal sewer is acceptable at this time in accordance with the regulations of the Water and Sewer Commission and the Board of Health. Final review of the proposed floor plans will be required by the Health Division prior to the Building Department sign-off. And then we have, this is from the HBDC, it's a certificate of appropriateness. On April 6th, the Historic Business District Commission met and referred the following decision in regard to the application, and this had to do with demolition. The commission voted 3 in favor, 1 in opposition, and 1 abstaining. And then they also voted on new construction. On the same day, April 6th, the HBDC met and rendered the following decision. The commission voted 5 in favor, 0 in opposition, and 0 abstaining. It was approved. Then we have a memo. This is from Joyce Lance. She writes on April 13th, please do not let 410 Main Street turn into another McMansion. Our town has enough. We're losing what Chatham has been and should continue to be instead of a fishing village with a McMansion problem. Then we have another email. This was sent to Sarah from Heather McGrath. And she lists herself as the property and business owner of Simpler Pleasures at 433 Main Street. The downtown area has zoning rules and guidelines in place for good reasons. These rules consider what is best for Chatham as a whole rather than for select individuals. As a Chatham property owner, business owner, and one who has grown up here, I have pride and concern for my community. I feel strongly that the business district remain united with businesses below and residential if it is allowed as part of the mix above the business. To break up the flow of downtown area with the residents only is not consistent or appropriate in the area of 410 Main Street. To consider a large conversion such as is currently proposed seems counterintuitive to all the good investments our community has made in the downtown area. Then we have an email from Susanna Nickerson. She writes on April 14th. First, it's unfortunate to lose a business-owned property on Main Street and have it replaced by a residence. The Main Street Shopping District brings many visitors to the downtown area for shopping, food, and entertainment. Once this lot becomes residential in use, it no longer helps the business community of Main Street. It would be concerning to see similar requests come forward in future applications. My second point, the zoning requirements for the GB2 district allow for much larger building coverage and lot coverage than the R20 residential zoning. As such, the potential homeowner avoids the more restrictive setbacks and lot coverage by building in the GB2 zone. I would suggest that our ZBA carefully consider the residential use of this property and the role of R20 zoning in our town bylaws. Thank you, board members, for allowing me to speak. And then we have an email. This is from Suzanne Cotter, and she lists herself as being the former owner of Chatham Ties, and her address is 58 Windy Ridge Road in Jefferson, Mass. She writes on April 14th, I'm a former business owner of property located at 35-39 Cross Street, where Ravis Real Estate and La Pete Day Spa still reside. And it took over from when my mother passed. But that aside, don't have the opportunity to get to Chatham's much anymore, sadly. One of the things both my husband and I missed myself have loved about Chatham's Main Street is its walkability. The beauty of it being one long, quote, continuous shopping spree, end of quote, is just wonderful. It has always been the best part of hitting the town for a day of shopping. But to now hear that you are considering allowing residential to break up or separate some of the merchants, to me, is possibly likely to put merchants beyond the potential residential area out of business. Walkers are likely to think, oh, there's just homeowners down there now, let's turn around. In my humble opinion, allowing the residential change in an already existing and working business district is just plain, quote, bad business and bad for business. I implore you to think long and hard on this. I know it's up to all of you, but that is my hope, to not see the zoning change allowed. Thank you for your time. Then we have an email. This is from Kate Nellis. The date is April 14th. I'm writing to express my concerns about recent news I heard regarding the building of a home in the heart of downtown Chatham. May I ask why? Are you so money hungry as a town that you're willing to ruin the very thing that makes Chatham unique and special? I've spent my entire life spending summers there, planning my wedding in the area and town to what? Have the restaurants suffer? The shops close. Chatham has changed so much over the last 20 years from a quiet beach town to a busy hotspot. And while it was great for business owners, it is clear that the town has gotten so consumed by greed that you will do anything for a dollar. Why spend money renovating the parking lot to just eventually sell all businesses as homes? And she signs it again, Kate Nellis, as a concerned, disappointed, and angry Chatham lover. Then we have an email. This is from Jim Haley, 218 Dolphin Way, and he lives in Laguna Beach, California. Writes on April 13th, I'm a frequent visitor to Chatham and have a close family of friends who either live in Chatham or close proximity. It would be a heartbreaking shame to implement any zoning changes that would change or compromise the cottage-like charm of the downtown stretch of Chatham. Often change that facilitates safety and convenience and modern culture is a good thing. Changes that destroy the culture and character of our communities, especially those as charming as Chatham, are antithetical to it. Thank you very much for your consideration. Then we have a note. This is from Elizabeth Howes, Tale of Cod, 450 Main Street. I'm writing on behalf of the Tale of Cod regarding the proposed changes to Mermaids on Main building. Downtown Main Street, Chatham is an iconic, historic, well-known shopping and dining destination which attracts visitors from near and far. We're so fortunate to have a continuous Main Street that allows people to park and walk its entirety. The Chatham shopping/restaurant experience is unique and very important to the lifeblood of this town. We feel a trend of inserting private residences into a business district is a threat to the survival of a vibrant downtown and its shops and eateries. This disruption of the flow of businesses is confusing and gives the impression the shopping district ends sooner than it actually does. Long ago, Chatham depended on fishing and farming. Now we depend on tourism. Let's support the people in the business district so they may continue to support Chatham. And that's the end of my portion of reading the letters. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. Excuse me. This is from Al Chang, 468 Main Street in Chatham. To whom it may concern, please do not make the mistake of allowing any commercial property in the village to change zoning to residential. Having lived in Chatham Village since 1985, I realize that the vibrancy of the village is directly related to the type of businesses and the diversity of shops found here to attract our visitors. Income is generated by both tourism and business owners. I'll go one step further. Zoning should allow conversion from one business type to another more easily as shops become more aware as to what the visitor is looking for. However, to eliminate the business location entirely and convert it to residential is fatal to the village life. All of us residents who live in the village and operate businesses here are keenly aware of this. This is hard to understand by those of us who do not operate a business in the village. If that individual needs a resident location there, would it be better to allow an addition to create a rare apartment serving the storefront, but not at the cost of taking away the business zone entirely? This would be a better compromise. Al Chang, SB, MIT, JD. This is from Brittany Santos.
Britney Spears.
Oh, no, did I say that? Dear God in heaven. I said Santos. Brittany Santos. Subject, no more massive homes in the downtown Chatham business district. Good afternoon. No massive home in the downtown business district. There is no need of this. The results are going to be catastrophic for the small businesses there. As it disrupts the foot traffic, in the past, Chatham Beach Dog was converted to residential use. Preservation of this area should also be utmost importance. I'm sure the homeowners of this absurd 5,000 square foot home can find a better location. Please hear the people out. Do what's best for the community, not what's best for your wallet. This is from Teresa Scott. I visit Chatham 2 or 3 times a year and always look forward to walking along the shops. Please do not rezone the end of Main Street to residential use. Thank you. Mary Pilch. I am a Chatham resident and am opposed to the refining of 410 Main Street. Chatham's charm is part that comes from the great businesses on Main Street, and changing zoning there would be detrimental to the Chatham residents and businesses. I urge the zoning board to keep the existing commercial zoning. Thank you. April Cushing. To whom it may concern. I've been coming to Chatham for 35 years, first as a renter and currently as a full-time resident. One of the hallmarks of this highly desirable town for day trippers, vacationers, and residents alike has always been its attractive, pedestrian-friendly Main Street. I strongly object to the prospect of inserting yet another single-family home on Main Street's charming retail district. When the Chatham Beach Dog became a private residence several years ago, I was dismayed and surprised that such a thing could actually have been approved, thus interrupting the continuity of the otherwise thriving business district. It disrupts the flow of foot traffic and discourages people from continuing past the misplaced private home to the businesses there beyond. which deserve to be patronized just as such of those nearer the center of town. Please, let's not make the same mistake twice and further compromise the integrity of Chatham's most valuable assets to the detriment of both the shoppers and business owners. This is from Lizzie Sprout. Hello, Sarah. I've just read some information about turning 410 Main Street into a commercial home, and since I'm unable to attend the meeting, I wanted to send an email. As someone who lives and works in Chatham, I am worried about how the small businesses that are closing to that area will be affected. From what I have gathered, I know that this is an issue that has occurred before. A previous building it almost happened was a location of where the shoe fits, which is now a thriving business. This side of Main Street still has businesses, and there should not be houses in the way of them to cut off foot traffic. I believe that this space about should belong to small businesses, not houses. Taylor Brown, who owns the Fisherman's Daughter, to whom it may concern, I am writing this letter in opposition to the proposed zoning change at 410 Main Street. As a business owner who has leased space at 400 Main Street and now 521 Main Street, I understand 100% of the challenges faced by the East End business owners. I also understand the maintaining the integrity of the Main Street Business District is good for everyone. A residential home is only good for a few, but at the expense of many. Chatham has built a global brand of Quest Essential shopping town in New England, and a large part is due to the cohesion of the business districts. Adding residential property in the middle of business districts weakens the integrity and cuts off businesses from the normal flow of foot traffic. People will get to houses and just turn around. A much better proposal for 410 Main Street would be additional commercial spaces as the bridge and expansion of East End businesses. This would provide more options for small, local businesses and greater opportunities for Main Street businesses. As a lifelong resident and Main Street business owner, I understand the attraction to life on Cape Cod, and Chatham in particular, and to maintain its appeal and economic well-being. Flipping commercial zoning to residential will have long-term adverse effects on the entire community. Sincerely, Taylor. This is a long one. I stay at home too much. To whom it may concern, shopping in downtown Chatham should be an enjoyable experience, but after the change of use to residential, walking by the former Beach Dog site at 416 Main Street is discouraging. A large part of the pleasure of shopping is strolling along the sidewalk, exploring storefronts, and enthusiastically looking into windows, but the opposite is true when walking by a single-family home. Suddenly, peering into the window, I like doing that. It's bad enough that it happens once along the otherwise cohesive retail district, but allowing it twice on adjacent lots, 416 and 410 Main Street, would compound one mistake into another. The combination of the side-by-side single-family homes will signal to the otherwise faithful shopper that the retail experience is over. These are private homes, clearly the end of the shopping district. So stop and turn around. This special permit will discourage foot traffic to the eastern end of Main Street and further compromise those businesses. It's unfair to both the business owners and the shoppers. Moreover, the town's purchase of the parking lot at the east end of the general business district and the potential benefits it represents will be marginalized when the nearby businesses suffer. Let's not double down on this planning era that 416 represents. As stated in the zoning bylaws for the town of Chatham, purpose and extent, section 1, paragraph C, the zoning board of appeals shall consider whether the proposed use is substantially different in size, operation, impacts, and other proposed characteristics from uses permitted in that district. If the proposed use is found to be similar to permitted uses specifically listed in the district, the Zoning Board of Appeals may authorize a special permit to locate use in the district. The proposed use is in no way similar to the permitted uses in GB2 districts. Please deny this application. Sincerely, Bradford Allen, the Allen Companies, and he is from, I don't know. Gets better. This is from Ann Rose. To whom it may concern, I am writing this letter to you for two views. That's not right. I am writing this letter to you in two views. It's not spelled right. One was a 27-year-old who came here for the first time to visit my family, who were born here and raised, and wanted me to experience its beauty. I did and fell in love with the Thank you. Of the town, especially Main Street. The internal desire to be part of the Chatham community and all that it presents brought me to where I am today. 30 years later, I live here year-round and I work on Main Street next to where the proposed home is to be built. The merchants in this area of Main Street deserve to be recognized and not passed by as they frequently are by location. A large home will most definitely curtail patronage further down the road. Keep Main Street what it is, what it always has been, reminds us of all that it once was good. Ann Rose. And this is from Joanne Doggett, where the sidewalk ends. Hello, Sarah and Jen. First of all, I apologize that I cannot make the ZBA meeting tomorrow, prior commitment. Jen, you wrote a compelling and heartfelt letter. I don't believe this is the time for Main Street to change a business from commercial to residential. As I said, this is from Joanne Doggett.
Randy.
I'm going to start with the shorter ones. Sorry. Yes. This is from David Pulsifer. My name is David Pulsifer. Sharon and I live at 21 Mill Pond Road in our lovely town of Chatham. When we renovated our 1915 home, we chose to maintain the original house style as we appreciate the history that Chatham represents on the Cape. I would strongly oppose adding residential designation to commercial properties in the downtown area. When will it stop? We could end up with a fabulous Main Street of McMansions. I don't think the town folks want that. Thank you for considering our point of view. Sincerely, David Pulsifer. 21 Mill Pond Road. To whom this may concern, and this is from Julia Maker. I was recently made aware that there's a chance 410 Main Street will be zoned residential. This would be a devastating change for downtown. I graduated from Chatham High School, and I have worked in Chatham my whole adult life. The shops and restaurants are what keep tourists and locals, like myself, frequenting Main Street. I beg that you keep the town charming and quaint and prevent this zoning change and any future ones like it from happening. If you allow it for one, there may be others that will follow suit. This is from Cynthia Wigren. I am writing to you to express my opposition to the conversion of the property at 410 Main Street from commercial use to a single-family residence. I run a Chatham-based nonprofit with a shock center and shop located on Orleans Road. As a member of the Chatham Chamber of Merchants Association, we are part of a vibrant business community that attracts thousands of visitors to the town of Chatham each year. The part of Main Street that is lined with shops and bustling with people in the heart of Chatham. Rezoning property for residential use may set a harmful precedent. By fragmenting businesses and eliminating storefront space, the charm and draw of the area would fade. As a nonprofit that many Main Street businesses refer people to, and as an organization that runs a tourist designation that refers people to businesses on Main Street, it's important to note that the ZBA's decision impacts more than just Main Street. This is from Kat Martin. As a business owner of Chatham Perk in North Chatham and soon to open Chatham Perk on Main Street, 447 Main Street, I firmly agree that changing from a commercial use to residential use will create a negative impact on the surrounding community. Around the 400 Main Street location especially, we have seen the demise of at least 3 to 4 properties that have transitioned from commercial to residential use. I would urge the zoning board to find the proposed use to be detrimental to the health of prospering businesses, activity, and the welfare of the surrounding neighborhood and the zoning district in general. If granted, I project that the neighborhood will be adversely impacted and will continue to change the character of the quaint Chatham downtown business community, which has been established as one of the most desired walking and shopping destinations in this region. Furthermore, we should begin to discuss an immediate rescue plan for zoning bylaws pertaining to commercial properties on Main Street and all areas of Chatham before the foundation is poured and the irreversible damage is done. Thank you for your consideration, Kat Martin. This is from Chris Canning, Chatham resident. I am writing on behalf of my friend Kristen Muller, a Chatham business owner who will be represented at the upcoming Zoning Board of Appeals meeting held on April 14th, 2022. I know Kristen for many years, as our family owns a home in Chatham. I write today to express my support for Kristen's concern over the future of the property at 410 Main in Chatham storefront, currently known as Mermaids on Main. We bought our home in 2013, and prior to moving here, we were longtime renters vacationing here every summer. My younger daughter also worked at the Candy Manor for the past 7 years. Needless to say, our family knows Chatham well. Because of our proximity to town, living in the old village, we walk past charming storefronts and shops on Main Street on a regular basis. It's always been a pleasure to take in a bit of the lively hustle and bustle at the end of Main Street while heading down, making our way home. There are a number of notable and long-standing businesses on this stretch called Tada, Chatham Threadworks, The Color of Chatham, Chatham Hood Bikes, Properties Kristen manages, along with Odell's Studio, Forest Beach, Where the Sidewalk Ends, Simpler Pleasures, Gibson Sotheby's International Realty. To hear that the new vacant 410 Main Street property, which sits in the heart of that stretch of commerce, may no longer remain a commercial use structure, was very disconcerting, to say the least. Continuing the trend of converting storefronts to develop as private homes in that area has always been considered primarily a commercial area, will take away from the cohesion and sense of place for the remaining businesses there. Please reconsider any thoughts of converting 410 Main Street from a commercial use building to a private home structure. Please take into account the large number of storefronts that rely on increased foot traffic on that stretch of Main Street. Commerce in that area needs to be maintained, built up, not torn down, to help promote and enhance their businesses. Their livelihoods are on the line. The commercial Main Street is the heart and soul of any community. It is what drives visitors, homeowners to a town and keeps them coming back. It is what gives a place its character and charm. When town planners take care of a design, a mail or big box store on the outskirts of town or online shopping need not be the only next chapter for businesses. Small town appeal with its unique small town businesses help define Chatham. Maintaining support and promoting small businesses should be a top priority for all. Thank you for your time and attention. Sincerely, Chris Channing, Chatham resident. Dear Zoning Board of Appeals, and this is from Tom Odell, Tom and Carol Odell. We are writing to oppose application 22-022, asking for a special permit and permission to demolish an existing commercial building and construct a new single-family dwelling at 410 Main Street. Our objections are to converting a business property to a residential property, as well as to the specific plans that are set for the building. We have our business and live at 423 Main, diagonally across the street from this property. Our main objective is that the proposed building is obviously designed for exclusive residential use and would be detrimental to the established and future character of this neighborhood, as it would remove a commercial property from the town's historic business district. It makes it much harder for the existing businesses if there's a reduction in commercial opportunity, visibility, and activity in our neighborhood. Furthermore, the proposed structure, considering the limited lot size and configuration, which is underlined, is a relatively substantial increase in scale. The plan is asking for an allowance to increase the non-conforming area to the west and the number of bedrooms, increasing the number of bedrooms and allowing the intrusion on the building into the 15-foot sideline setback limit would create a structure that is contrary to the current scale and density of the neighborhood. We hope you will consider our concerns when making your decisions. And this last one is from Ray Foster, 7 Mill Pond Road, Chatham. It has come to my attention that a local developer is seeking to change the downtown zoning regulations in order to allow 410 Main Street to be converted from a modest-sized commercial property to an enormous residential structure. This be allowed by the town authorities would be a mistake detrimental to the interests of all downtown businesses while being beneficial only to that developer. Look to the future. A precedent if you allow this to come to fruition. As sure as God made little green apples, other developers will begin to buy up other downtown properties. The Pentimento shop is currently for sale, and the number of other properties along Main Street may become available before long to those who wish to change downtown Chatham's face. Great numbers of our out-of-town businesses are attracted to the town because of the very special shopping experience available along our Main Street. These visitors are not only off-capers. I have spoken with many folk who visit Chatham from neighboring towns in order to experience its special ambiance. One store owner of my acquaintance chose Chatham over Orleans for their business site because of its concentration of shops along its one street. Allowing downtown businesses to fall like dominoes to be replaced by residential buildings may seem to be a good idea to a developer, but having residential homes sprout in the middle of our vibrant business district diminishes the intended purpose of commercially zoned district. By decreasing the density of commercial activity that will decrease the number of businesses and thus a visitor's pleasure in the shopping in the downtown area. Another objection is its conjecture, but who is to say that a future in-town homeowner will not object to bothersome merchants' promotional events such as Mondays on Main? Too noisy, they'll complain. Count me as one who vehemently opposes any rezoning permit to accommodate the construction of a residential building in Chatham's commercial area. Respectfully, Ray Foster, 7 Mill Pond Road, Chatham.
Dave Veach.
Okay, the first one is from Sarah Dowdy, and it's addressed to Sarah. It says, please keep Chatham the way it is. The business district should remain just that, a business district. Thank you, a friend who loves Chatham the way it is. I like the short, I get the short ones.
You only get one. Everyone gets long.
I speak too soon, is that?
Yes, you
so?
did.
All right, and this one is from Lisa Snyder, addressed to Sarah. Hi, Ms. Clark. Please preserve Chatham's Main Street by preventing more conversions from commercial to residential zoning. The reason why Chatham is such a bustling and busy place is because there is a thriving business district. The stores, restaurants, and visitors, shoppers are all interconnected and depend on each other. Let's support them. Okay, and this is from Julia Logan. Says, I've been lucky enough to have spent summers and holidays in Chatham at my parents' cottage, previously my grandparents' home, for 36 years. Chatham Main Street is at the heart of the town and should be preserved as a business district. It seems in recent years the street has been encroached upon on either by private residential homes, removing opportunity for small local businesses to remain. I am not against development, but it seems so many of the residences in Chatham have been knocked down already and replaced by much larger structures. Let the record state that I do not support this happening at 410 Main Street. This is from Callie Sweeney. To all ZBA members, I'm writing to ask you to adhere to the current downtown Chatham zoning laws in place by not allowing the obscenely large private residence currently under consideration for the 410 Main Street property to be built. Downtown Chatham is an idyllic downtown with endless charm. Its classic appeal cannot be replaced and should be maintained as best it can. It is in your hands to keep Chatham the Chatham we all know and love. Allowing this massive private residence to be built in the downtown area is a slippery slope toward more and more of these appeals being brought forth. Please, please keep the history of Chatham as well as the future of our beautiful town in mind. This is from Jonathan Pratt, founder of Cape Life Brand Company. Sarah, how are you? Nice to meet you. My name is Jonathan Pratt, and I own and operate Cape Life Brand Company at 403 Main Street in Chatham. It has recently come to my understanding that the building across the street, formerly Mermaids on Main, is getting rezoned potentially from a commercial space to residential. I just wanted to send a quick email to you, as I understand you have a say in this, that I would hope that you would think of the small businesses down here and how that would impact our livelihood. We already struggle getting foot traffic down here as people do not recognize that there are businesses further down Main Street. And this is only going to further hurt our chances of surviving as a business. Please take this humble plea to help keep our businesses in mind when making these types of decisions. Thank you for your time and consideration. Have a great day. This is from Mark August. Dear Sarah, as retail business owners of Mark August, 490 Main Street, we are writing to express our concern over the proposed changes to 410 Main Street. Open for 30 years this June, we have witnessed a good deal of change beyond the Mayflower shop. The loss of the Dolphin, the moorings, and what had been for years the Lang Miller Gallery ushered in a change to the feel of our walking Main Street. Now more than ever, whatever can be done to support small businesses should be considered. The 400 block has worked to draw people beyond where literally the sidewalk ends. This zoning change would seem to discourage foot traffic from exploring the east end of Main Street. In conclusion, we want you to know we are opposed to 410 Main Street being a residence. Odell Studios is a longtime example of a business and residents coexisting successfully, live and work in our town. I missed something here, coexisting successfully as well as the many apartments above shops that provide much-needed housing for those who hope to live and work in our town. Getting rid of a commercial space for a single-family residence is not where we should be heading. It will be in the beginning of the end. It will be the beginning of the end of our quaint walking village. And it's submitted by Liz Shanky and Corinne Blakeney, the owners of Mark August. This is from Susan Anderson Logan. I'm a summer homeowner at 88 Seagull Road. For over 50 years, our family has been walking past the lighthouse and up Main Street to town. That walk is beautiful and never gets old. Please preserve the charm of the eastern end of town. Those old buildings are gems and welcome people back year after year. Susan Anderson Logan. This from Laura Lerner. Ms. Clark, I visit Chatham often and love all that it offers. I strongly oppose rezoning any of the Main Street Business District to residential, specifically 410 Main Street. I strongly urge you to vote against this rezoning. This is from D. Farmer. I love visiting Chatham with its historic New England feel. To rezone and build new areas downtown would compromise the beauty of your town. Please keep Chatham charming. This is from Jim Patriquin, address 75 Seaview Street, Chatham. To the Zoning Board of Appeals, I see no need for another mansion to be built in Chatham, especially one that is on Main Street. We should be continuing to use the business district as a business district to attract more people to our town and not to provide another site for the developer to build a huge home. And this is from Rebecca Sullivan. Dear Sarah, I'm a lifelong resident of Massachusetts and now a proud Cape Cod homeowner. I have enjoyed visiting, staying, celebrating, dining, and boating in Chatham for my entire life. While there are arguably many precious pockets on the Lower Cape, there really isn't any other walkable, family-friendly, and fun downtown shopping district like there is in Chatham, period. Please do not mess with that. The proposed zoning changes are not remotely as good a good idea and could very well be the slippery slope Chatham sadly slides into. And all for what? Do, period, not, period, give, period, in, period. Some things just need to stand as is. Thank you for your consideration. This is so very important. Sincerely, Rebecca Sullivan.
Bob.
This is from Elizabeth Daly, 107 Seaview Street, Chatham. I write this correspondence to express my opposition to the 410 Main Street application to convert the use at that property from commercial to residential. As a longtime Chatham resident who has enjoyed the walkability and charm of downtown commercial zone, converting that property to residential would significantly change the appeal and attractiveness of that area. Additional commercial establishments beyond the proposed property could potentially be negatively impacted by the decreased foot traffic. It is important to support and maintain the vitality of the existing commercial spaces as they are the core of what makes Chatham Village the unique and cherished town it is today. This is from Kit Perkins, and she doesn't leave her address. Please adhere to the current downtown Chatham zoning laws in place by not allowing a much larger private residence currently under consideration for the 410 Main Street property. The integrity, charm, and classic appeal of the town as it exists cannot be replaced and must be maintained as best it can. It is in your hands to do so. It is a very slippery slope to move more and more of these appeals coming to the table if you allow this proposed private residence to go forward. Please keep both the history of Chatham as well as the future of our beautiful town in mind. This is from Mary McGay, Dear Madam and Sirs, as frequent visitor to Chatham, I wish to convey my dismay at the possibility of a change of the character of Main Street. I enjoy wandering Main Street, poking into the various boutique shops, sometimes making a purchase, people watching and stopping sometimes to chat. Please do not take away this delightful pleasure. It makes Chatham frankly Chatham. This is from Kathy Kurt. It is my understanding that an appeal is being made to the zoning board to change the property at 410 Main Street from commercial to residential. I am imploring the ZBA to deny this request in order to keep our quaint and unique village a destination for visitors to enjoy. Allowing this property to become residential would open up the possibility of this happening again and again. With so many relying on tourists for their livelihood, this trend would be disastrous. So again, please vote to deny this request. Don't allow our town to be spoiled with more giant houses. Thank you for your consideration. Kathy is from South Chatham. This is from Joe Picari. I want to express my concern about the proposed conversion of Mermaid Store location to a large residential building. Downtown Chatham is a premier destination, a coastal town, because of the diversity of its small businesses and restaurants in a walkable setting, offset by the charming architecture. If we chip away at this serendipitous mix, first with this property, and then the next, and after that, we risk arriving at a tipping point where the town will have lost its character and cease to be a destination. Recent surveys have shown that all small town business districts comprised of unique stores and historic architecture are the preferred destinations for all demographic groups. I urge everyone involved to take a long-term view and work to preserve one of the true gems of Cape Cod. This is from Cece Hadawar. I am the owner of If the Shoe Fits at 442 Main Street. I'm writing to oppose the change of use at 401 Main Street. I think that's a typo. A few years ago, someone tried to do the same where I am now, and the proposal was declined. Thank goodness, because I have added a thriving business to the town and employ 4 to 5 women every year. The whole 400 block is tirelessly advertising and trying to get people to realize there's more to Main Street than the center. We all sincerely hope you will see the negative impact this would have on our lives and those we employ. Thank you for your attention. This is from John Hallgren. John is located at Pleasant Forest Shores Cottages in Clearwater, Florida, a frequent visitor to the Board of Selectmen in the summer. Writing this as a non-resident summer business owner in South Chatham, I am concerned primarily about the planned conversion of this property to residential, but also about the size of the proposed building. Although I rarely use any businesses in actual downtown due to my needs and wants, both personally and for business, being so totally different, my customers use them, and thus the need to maintain a vibrant, consolidated downtown business district. It is definitely one of the key reasons why visitors select our town over others on the Cape. Having attended numerous Mondays on Main Street events and occasionally listening to the bands at 400 Main venue, I have noticed that many people don't go much past Sidewalk End's bookstore, apparently because they don't realize there's more businesses past that. Now, even if a store isn't open for that event, it shows that the business district is still continuing further. Making this property residential will further isolate the ones east of that, such as 400 Main, onto an island, and that's a bad thing. I believe for those businesses, it is a business district, not a residential one. In addition, there's been way too many new buildings that, while technically permitted, are visually just too big for that location, and I feel this would likely be the case here. I urge the board to reject this proposal as it is, but I would possibly support a building that's no larger from the street view than existing one and that has a business front portion and a residential rear portion. Thank you for your time to read this. It has come to my attention that a developer is encouraging Chatham to convert 410 Main in its business district to a residential use. After 35-plus years as a visitor to Chatham, whose family has been here year-round residents of the town, I am encouraging that this zoning request allowing residential use from its current commercial use be denied. Chatham is a very special place with a great business district. And without that amazing walkable business district, Chatham would edge closer to being like any other place on Cape Cod or another oceanside community. I am puzzled as to why the town would even consider undermining it with such a change. In fact, the town of Chatham and its residents were foresighted enough to stick to a disciplined zoning plan through the years. It really shows. Allowing a non-conforming use in this business district now doesn't make sense from either an economic or aesthetics perspective over the long run. Simply put, converting this part of Main Street to a residential use makes no sense. I hope the zoning request will be denied. And that was from Jackson McQuigg, I'm sorry. The address is 719 Howell Court, Stone Mountain, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta. 2, Chatham ZBA members from Eliza and Alan Royal of 416 Main Street. I think this is the second letter from 416. As a year-round direct abutter on the west side, we have concerns with the proposed application number 22022, asking for a special permit for a new house at 410 Main Street, Chatham. Our concern is the proposed plan is the maximum size that can fit the lot, as opposed to a reasonably sized home that would fit within the normal residential coverage, setbacks, and contours of the lot. This maximization is coming at the expense of the experience on our side of our adjoining property line. Specifically, the proposed non-conforming bump out is significant in size and proximity to our property line. The plan calls for a 20-foot wide, 32-foot tall garage with a porch on top, which is only 8 feet from our property line and is 4 to 5 times larger, twice as tall, and 1 foot closer to our property line than the entryway bump out on the existing building. The scale of the proposed building at 410 has big impact on space, light, and noise, especially along the east side of our property and the patio area. And they have a bunch of attachments here with photographs and sketches and drawings. And while we appreciate the proposed plannings to help with some screening, they are hardly remediation for this kind of space, light, and sound impact, and will require sunlight and ongoing maintenance to serve their purpose. In addition, we have concerns about our private hedge privacy screen that is planted along the slope of the middle to the north ends of the property line, as the clearing and regrading are likely to take a toll on them. Please consider our concerns in your decision-making. Alan and Eliza Royal. And they go on to talk about the bump out of the garage, 24 feet long, 32 feet high, and 8 feet from their property line, with sketches. And that concludes what I was given.
Bill. Okay, this letter is from Robert and Deborah Fish, 48 Doane Road, Chatham. We write this in anticipation of the Chatham Zoning Board meeting Thursday, April 14th at 3 p.m. to address an application to change the property at 410 Main Street, currently Mermaids on Main, from a commercial building to a massive, in caps, residential home. We've lived near Main Street in Chatham since 1980, and we know how special downtown Main Street is. Chatham is one of the few towns on Cape Cod that has a walkable downtown business district with unique shops and restaurants. Do we really need another mansion built in the middle of these businesses? Our neighbor owns Chatham Threadworks, a small shop located at 400 Main Street. We believe that this change in use, coupled with the change several years ago of the dog store at 416 Main, would effectively make a retail island in the East End that would impact walking customers who will mistakenly believe that the business district ends before this group of stores. We're very concerned about the conversion of any of downtown Main Street to residential use. A few years ago, a similar proposal was made to convert the building that now houses If the Shoe Fits next to Tale of the Cod. The ZBA at that time prevented that conversion, and there is now a thriving business in the space, so there is hope to prevent the change at 410 Main. Chatham is a charming and quaint vacation town, greatly due to the walkability and diversity of shops on Main Street. If you allow the change from business to residential use, there will be eventually nothing left for people to visit. Please stop this trend. We are currently personally experiencing on our cul-de-sac street this trend in Chatham of replacing existing residential structures with massive homes, bringing elimination of affordable housing, destruction of topography in sensitive environmental areas, and disruption of daily living with large, heavy trucks moving dirt up and down our road. We respectfully submit our request to let the business district remain just that, a business district. Sincerely, Robert and Deborah Fish, 48 Doan Road, Chatham. This is from Joan Kasabian to Zoning Board of Appeals. We are concerned that there is a request to rezone 410 Main Street from business to residential. We've witnessed so many buildings associated with the quaintness of Cape Cod turned into mansions that are hardly even used. We see no need for another mansion to be built in Chatham, especially one that is on Main Street. We should be continuing to use the business district as a business district to attract more people to our town and not to provide another site for a developer to build a huge home. Thank you for your consideration, Ed and Joan Kasabian, 71 Seaview Street, Chatham. This is from Lisa Strain. I'm writing this letter in support of the businesses at the lower end of Main Street. I would like the parcels along Main Street that are in the business district to remain for business, not residential use. A thriving Main Street business community is what separates Chatham from other Cape towns. That's Lisa Strain, 18 Indian Trail, Chatham. And this is from Perry Rose. Having been visiting Chatham multiple times per year for the past 15 years, I have to say that the shops on Main Street are a large part of the attraction on the town. Being able to enjoy the beautiful and scenic area is enhanced by having a quaint downtown. Main Street, Chatham is a big part of what makes Chatham special. That's from Perry Rose of the Rose Holcomb Ross Group of Alliance Wealth Advisors, Scranton, Pennsylvania. And this is from Hallie Smith to Sarah. I am reaching out regarding Mermaids on Main, located at 410 Main Street in downtown Chatham. I'm not in favor of letting this building be a residence with no commercial on the first floor. I was born in Chatham, and as a current resident in this quaint vacation town, this would be a big negative for the town. Chatham is a destination, and visitors, as well as residents, love the ability to walk downtown and shop. We've already lost the dog store, and this massive change will be a detriment to the town. Other towns have built up their main streets with stores and restaurants, and I don't want to see our Main Street lose its appeal. Please don't allow 410 Main Street to become residential. Thank you. Hallie Smith, 192 Orleans Road, Chatham. This is from Catherine Ward. Dear Sarah, my husband and I are property owners in Chatham. I'm writing to say that we are not in favor of the application to change the commercial property at 410 Main Street to residential. All existing commercial property along Main Street should be preserved. It is what makes Chatham a unique and walkable community that supports small businesses. Thank you very much. Catherine and Daniel Ward, 170 Main Street. I assume that's Chatham. This is from Barry Legg. Ms. Clark, I hear there is talk about rezoning 410 Main Street. As someone who has strolled your streets for the past 30 years with his entire shopping family, wife, and 3 girls, I would like to say contorting Main Street into less of what it is today is not a sustainable concept. The design and setup of Main Street today with the businesses intertwined is part of the essence and charm of Chatham Main Street. We, like many others, enjoy the stroll to the East Main section and love the people and experience. Keep the charm and essence with these commercial locations. It makes for an atmosphere others only wish they had. Stay the leader on the Cape with these properties stretching out to the East Main Street area. Your setup today and atmosphere is not so Western Cape-like. That's the draw. From Barry Legg, no address. This is from Cecile Allen. I own property on Bay Lane, and I'm definitely not in favor of making 410 Main Street a residential building. That would start a very bad trend indeed, and one that would eventually discourage visitors from walking and shopping the whole length of Main Street. My family and guests always shop the street, and it's part of the reason for living close enough to walk up and do the town. No, 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 bad idea. And that's from Cecile Allen, no address. That's it.
Megan.
Peter Greco. Oh, sorry. This one's from Peter Greco. I'm writing to voice my concern regarding the proposed residential structure to the 410 Main Street. For context, we live in Westport, Connecticut, but have been coming to Chatham for nearly 30 years. It's our home away from home. Chatham's charm, character, and beauty are what we love the most. However, undeniably, things are changing. It's not hard to notice charm giving way to, frankly, money. This parallels almost exactly things here in Westport. Westport lies on the coastline and has a Revolutionary War history. It's a small, scenic town with a core of families that have been here for generations. Money came to Westport decades ago in the form of authors, musicians, and actors like Paul Newman, who blended into the culture of the community. After 9/11, the exodus from New York City brought a different kind of money to town. You could smell it. Hedge fund wealth with very little regard for the community. Teardowns became commonplace. Our Main Street lost wonderful stores like the remarkable bookstore and Klein's Family Stationery, and ridiculously oversized structures were built on undersized lots. Westport is still beautiful, but it's lost its soul. Sadly, Chatham is trending in the same direction. It was our sanctuary from the cosmopolitization of Westport. If Chatham loses its character, it becomes the Jersey Shore. I'm sure the developer stands to make a lot of money in this market, and the town will gain some tax revenue, but that logic will create a runaway domino effect. Westport's Main Street has become Rodeo Drive. What will Chatham look like? Don't make the same mistake. You will regret it, and so will my family. Kathleen, he was obviously from Westport. Kathleen Mazur, 22 Doan Road in Chatham. Hi, Sarah. I'm reaching out to let you know that I'm very much opposed to allowing 410 Main Street to be knocked down and allowed to change from a business building to a massive private home. We are one of the few towns on Cape Cod that have a walkable downtown business district with unique shops and restaurants. Do we really need another mansion built in the middle of those businesses? If the trend continues, our downtown will be changed forever, and the charm and walkability that attracts so many out-of-town guests on rainy days as well as beautiful sunny days will come to a slow end. Other businesses will start to crumble as well. This is the type of move I don't see anything positive coming from such a decision. It's my hope that such a move will be stopped and an example will be set for upcoming situations that may arise similar to this one. Thanks for taking time to hear my concerns, Kathy and Greg from 22 Doan Road. This one comes from Judy Smith of Ricotta Real Estate, but it's actually from Ann Poppleton. She forwarded a message that Ann sent to her. Hey Judy, what's going on in Chatham? I've heard the town is letting the village be turned into a residential area. What is going to happen to our commercial center? I've been coming to beautiful Chatham since 1952. As a kid, if I had a nickel, I would walk into the Mayflower shop for a Charms lollipop. We would walk to the band concerts, the library, the movies, etc. Chatham has always been my heart home, and I would hate to lose our wonderful village to these residential properties. Please let it be known that the old-timers want to keep our town as special as it has always been. Please send along this email to whatever board would make this decision. And it doesn't say where she's from. Kathleen Phelan of Middle Road in South Chatham. North Chatham? Is there a Middle Road in North Chatham? Yeah. Oh, who knew? My name is Kathleen Phelan, and I oppose the sorry, I live in South Chatham. I'm a little biased. My name is Kathleen Phelan, and I oppose the zoning application to change the zoning at 410 Main Street to allow a home to be built there. We're losing our commercial space and storefronts along Main Street. The continuity of retail and commercial space along our retail Main Street stretch is an important point for the existing communities, or existing businesses, that are trying to survive in that area. We have large enough McMansions that have changed the look and feel of our little town. Affordable housing is needed, but not another McMansion. Most importantly, changing the zoning at 410 Main Street is harmful to businesses, which we need to stay in business so our retail area of Main Street does not disappear. Tess Nellis does not say where she's from, although maybe it will. I was recently informed of the plans to rezone 410 Main Street into a large-scale residential property and want to formally voice my concern in opposition to the decision. I'm a lifelong visitor to Chatham with family living in town. Having spent endless summers, Oktoberfest, and first nights on Main Street, I have a great concern for how rezoning like this could negatively affect the street, especially the bottom half, which is personally my favorite, still recovering from the Buffy's news. Although I'm not ignorant of the need of the town to evolve, I do think in this world environment, your team should be doing everything possible to protect Main Street's small businesses and ensure that not only their authenticity stays intact, but that they are given equal access and support for success. Creating a blockade at 410 Main Street would essentially make the bottom half of Main Street an island that most travelers will not visit. The decision to rezone 410 Main Street will no doubt have a devastating ripple effect, and I ask you and your team to reconsider your decision. Betsy Legassi, Schoolhouse Road in Eastham. I'm writing to inform you of my opposition of changing commercial zones to residential properties on Main Street in Chatham, specifically the property at 410 Main Street. The ability to stroll, eat, and shop along Main Street has been a destination for locals and visitors alike for a very long time. Let's put an end to the massive residential homes changing the iconic charm of Cape Cod. Nicole Smith, 192 Orleans Road. Good morning. As a long-term Chatham summer resident and most recently a 5-year permanent Chatham resident, I'm writing to express my concern for the consideration of 410 Main Street to become a residential building. I'm urging you to reconsider this and to understand the value and importance of keeping 410 Main Street and other similar properties as commercial options for our town, our residents, and our visitors. As I'm sure you're aware, the highlight of Main Street in Chatham is the opportunity to stroll the town and engage in the beautiful stores, restaurants, and other commercial opportunities that our town offers. The loss of commercial buildings on Main Street would be detrimental to the value and appeal of our town, both for residents and visitors. The commercial opportunities and presence on Main Street makes Chatham the quaint, diverse, and desired town that it currently is. I'm appealing to your good sense and commitment to Chatham and its residents to resist the urge to give in to the push from builders and the hot real estate market, and instead hold strong and have a long-term vision for our town and the success of its residents and business owners. Please keep Main Street commercially zoned properties. Edward Kasabian, who I think may have already sent a letter, unless there's more than one, so I'll read it anyway. As a longtime visitor to Chatham and a recent homeowner in town, I was concerned to hear that there's an attempt to receive a special permit in the business district at 410 Main Street to convert the property from a business to a residential home. Chatham's business district is what brings visitors to the town. We should be continuing to invest in that area and not creating another mansion that will cut off all of the 400 Main Street businesses from the rest of the business area. It seems that Chatham is allowing developers to build larger and larger homes on smaller lots, and that developers are exploiting the rules to stay within the letter of the law, but certainly not the spirit. Some of the recent projects maximize every square inch of the available lot size with little to no concern of the neighbors and neighborhoods. These houses require more energy to heat and cool, and given their large size, and they are seemingly unconcerned with the environmental aspects at a time when that needs to be a growing concern. Please keep the business district a business district. I feel like I've won because I also have a letter in favor. Ding, ding, ding. Sarah, I am sending this letter in support of the proposed project at 410 Main Street, the Mermaids on Main building, for demolition and construction of a single-family home. I don't think that's quite what he means, but I own the property directly across the street at 409 Main and feel this will certainly be an improvement to the neighborhood. I would suggest that construction be limited, take place in the off-season at the appropriate traffic control for construction vehicles, and parking in this location will minimize the disruption to downtown. Yeah, well, sorry, slip of the tongue. And while the work is underway. Sincerely, Rick Smith, top-notch location, 409 Main Street, Chatham, Mass. And he is a broker at Gibson Sotheby's.
Paul.
This is from Sally Delaney, 75 Doan Road. Hi, Sarah. I am writing to you to express my opposition to the proposed rezoning of the property at 410 Main Street. I have spent my lifetime visiting, vacationing, living in, and loving Chatham, from the 1960s when we vacationed every summer with my grandparents, to the 1970s when my parents bought property in Chatham, to the 1980s when Chatham was my refuge from the stressors of college life at BC, to the 1990s when I got married at the Congregational Church at the Rotary, to the 2000s when I began to bring my own 3 children to Chatham, to the 2010s when I buried my mother and then my father at Union Cemetery, to this past year when I moved to my beloved Chatham full-time forever. In addition to the decades of rich memories, one of the most attractive things about Chatham is the walkable downtown Main Street area, one of the few remaining on the Cape. Changing the zoning of 410 Main Street from business to residential will create a veritable end to downtown and a damaging precedent going forward. As a resident and a taxpayer and a devotee of all of the wonderful, hardworking businesses in downtown Chatham, I want to register my vehement opposition to this change in zoning. This is from Sophie Delaney. Does not give her address. Hello. On someone who grew up in Chatham and whose mother currently resides there, I must speak out against zoning 410 Main Street for residential property. We love Chatham and the sense of community that Main Street provides for its residents to gather all year round for food, music, art, souvenirs, and endless fun. Main Street is for the Chatham community, not the Chatham individual. This is from Sarah Francis, who also does not give an address here. I hope all is well and you enjoyed your weekend. I'm writing regarding turning 410 Main Street into a residential property. I was born and raised in Chatham and now summer there with my family. I grew up on Main Street and know how important the businesses are to the town, residents and owners, and would hate to see the 410 Main Street building turned residential. I was sad to see the dog store go and fear for the stores located past what is now Monomoy Coffee. I can't not be there in person to share my concerns and wanted to send a note. And this is from Cynthia Neckvasil, 48 Seaview Street. To whom it may concern, my husband and I own a historic home on Seaview Street, built in 1772, and purchased the home because we fell in love with a quaint, charming town with a bustling Main Street. During the summer, we love to attend the town band concerts and the Mondays on Main. We've been told about the possible rezoning of the Mermaid Shop and want to express our sincere disapproval of such zoning change. Adding a residential home will hurt the businesses on the other end and will chip away at our perfect little town. Please choose Chatham over development. That's from Cynthia and Kalju Nekvasal. Carolyn Jablonski does not give an address. As a longtime visitor, I am kindly asking that this Chatham Zoning Board please reconsider any new residential building on Main Street. The business district should remain a business district. Chatham is a charming and quaint vacation town which my family adores. The walkability and diversity of shops is one of the main reasons we love Chatham. Thank you for reading my email and sharing my concerns with the ZBA. And this is from Anus Tatavosian, 80 Seaview Street. I'm writing to express my strong opposition to the proposed building of a residential home at 410 Main Street, a plan which I was originally made aware of by some neighbors. Chatham's Main Street should remain a business district. The walkable street and commercial zone make this town charming and unique and draws visitors, tourists, and of course, residents. The last thing Chatham needs is another monstrous mansion. There have been absolutely too many built up around town already with little apparent regard to the impact on the footprint of the town or the environment. At least we should all agree that Main Street should remain a business district as it is and has been. This is from George Chain, 594 Chore Road. I am writing to oppose the change of use from retail to residential for the property at 410 Main Street. Main Street was zoned for business and nothing has changed to suggest that the business district should gradually become a line of, quote, giant, unquote, houses on small lots in the center of town. The ZBA should assert firmly that it is opposed to requests for changes of use on Main Street that are proposed solely for the purpose of building more mega mansions and reducing the sites available for the businesses that attract summer visitors. This is from Michelle Show. No address given. I got wind that there is a chance that Mermaids on Main will be torn down to make room for another mega mansion. I spend time in Chatham every summer, and the reason I love it so much is the charm and character of Main Street. Of course, the beaches too. Please preserve this charm and allow these post-COVID struggling but fighting and thriving businesses to carry on. Thank you for your time. This is from Francis Gallagher. No address. Hello, I have been a resident of Chatham for 40 years. I am not in favor of the property at 410 Main Street being converted into a residential space. Besides the natural aesthetic beauty of Chatham, the, quote, Chatham downtown shopping area, unquote, is a wonderful resource for residents as well as tourists. Chatham does not need another huge home on a relatively small lot. Thank you. And this is from Joseph Nunez. Also, no address. From Joseph and Ann Nunez. We write to ask that the Chatham ZBA not approve an application to change the property at 410 Main Street, currently Mermaids on Main, from a commercial to a residential property. When we originally purchased our place at 85 Seaview in 2010, one of the things that attracted us to Chatham was its iconic downtown, a wonderful walkable commercial area with an amazing variety of shops. Travel to many other towns on the Cape and elsewhere in New England, and you quickly realize how rare this situation is. We feel strongly that converting current commercial space, the lifeblood of vibrant downtown area, to residential space would be a mistake and begin a trend that is being driven by the crazed real estate market. We believe the ZBA has recognized this in the past and should continue to hold the line against such greed-driven incursions. And this is from Bjorn Mayberry Lewis, who is president of House of Findings, which I believe has an address of 400 Main Street. Good morning, Ms. Clark. By way of introduction, my partner, Ms. Maya Gonzalez, and I are co-owners of the House of Findings, women's vintage clothing, accessories, and jewelry shop located at 400 Main Street, Chatham. Myra and I will unfortunately be out of town on the date of this important zoning meeting. We therefore write to respectfully request that our letter be of strong protest to this proposed change to the zoning regulations be read into the public record. It has come to our attention that the building on 410 Main Street, known presently as Mermaids on Main, is under agreement for sale to a party who plans to construct a substantial residential home in the midst of our area, which is presently zoned for commercial property. In light of the commercial zoning rule now governing 410 Main Street, we understand that the potential new owner of the premises proposes that for his/her exclusive benefit, the zoning board change the zoning rules at the zoning board meeting on April 14th, 2022. Those of us who run small businesses at the southeastern end of the commercial district, or, quote, the end of Main Street, unquote, depend on the foot traffic of visitors to the Chatham Commercial District who walk towards us from the downtown area. To refashion the town's zoning rules to allow large residents between our portion of Main Street and the town center will quite clearly be detrimental to our business's foot traffic and business performances, as it will render us a, quote, island at the end of town, unquote, with one or more large residences between us and the town center. The proposed exception at 410 Main Street will cause a bad precedent. There are plenty of residential areas already zoned for private homes all over Chatham. There is really no reason to grant this party a special privilege of private residency for its exclusive benefit in the midst of our business zone. At a minimum, the property should be only granted a mixed-use permit with lower floors required to be dedicated to commercial use. This special zoning privilege would inevitably curtail commerce and in a commercially zoned area. What's more, it will diminish the experience of visitors to Chatham with less commerce and more private residences on Main Street, rendering the town of Chatham less of a, quote, destination, unquote, for shoppers and visitors than it presently is. It appears to us unfair and wrong to grant a special provision in the zoning regulations to benefit undemocratically one party at the expense of many Chatham small businesses already in place there, as well as an entire shopping district. We hereby request, therefore, that you deny the changing of the zoning rule for the property at 410 to safeguard our business at 400 Main Street, the businesses in all the surrounding buildings, and the character of the Chatham Commercial District, a classic American Main Street experience. We hope and trust that you will support the small business community of Chatham that already is at work in this vital area of Main Street by denying this exception to the commercial zoning rules governing our portion of Main Street. and this is from Julia Finch. No address given. I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to reach out and share my concerns and fears around the 401 Main Street, I think she means 410 Main Street building. I have heard they want to turn it into a residence, and that would be so detrimental to Main Street. Just look at the eyesore that the old Chatham Dog Store is now, that it was turned from commercial to residential. It completely cuts off the rest of Main Street and takes away from what Chatham is known for as having one of the most historical, beautiful main streets. I am simply writing to say that I truly believe that 410 Main Street should be kept commercial to keep Chatham's charm and history in place. I was born and raised in Chatham and hope to own my own home one day in the place I will forever call home. I hope you consider the damage turning this building to residential will have on the town. Best wishes, Julia Finch. And that's it.
So, the next portion will be those here, and also those through Microsoft Teams who wish to ask a specific question or speak against the application. But before we do that, we've been here for 3 hours, so I'm sorry, guys. 5, we're going to take a 5-minute break and then reconvene, and we'll go on to what I just described. Everyone, we're back in session, please. Would you please take your seats? Please take your seats. And no more conversation? Thank you very much. Okay, as I said, this is the portion where you, as an audience, are invited to speak against it if you wish, or if you have a specific question, that can be asked. That doesn't mean there's anybody's going to give any answer, but you can do that. So I'm going to start with Mr. Litchfield, because he is here representing at least one individual, I think, and then I'll go through and we'll explain what we're looking for and what we're not looking for, okay? Mr. Litchfield.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Kristen Muller. I will try to be brief because it's been a long afternoon, but obviously, given the interest and the number of people who still want to speak, there's a great deal of concern about this project. I also want to congratulate Karen Kempton on another outstanding design. The only thing wrong with it is where it's proposed to be built. There are unfortunately more things wrong with this proposal than there are things right about Karen's design. It's too large, it's incompatible with the surrounding properties. It's a dramatic expansion of nonconformity. It's not evocative of what's there. The site isn't suitable. It's certainly not in keeping with the purpose and intent of the bylaw, and it would be detrimental to the character of the neighborhood. As a starting point, I'm troubled, and I think some people are, by the apparent need to demolish years of being there as a commercial structure is apparently fairly recent because it won a preservation award in 1980 because it's been a commercial structure for more than 140 years. It was Chatham Marine Electronics for many.
We've lost teams. We can continue if you want.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark, are you?
team is still running, so that's.
Okay.
Is to remain a commercial, if it is to be demolished, and particularly in the design of apartments in this location. Beyond that, aside from the Port Royal House at 407 Main Street, there are exactly two single-family residences between the Rotary and 400. One is at 415 Main Street, and the owners of that property and the owners of the Port Royal House have written to object to this proposal. If we use the R20 requirements which apply to the rear of this property, maximum coverage would be 15%. But here the design is beyond maximization. It's from 800 square feet to 2,400 square feet, from 7% to 22.5%. It's true that there's no line item in the zoning bylaw for coverage in the GB zone. That's because residential units aren't considered to be appropriate for the GB zone. If we looked at, well, nothing you do is precedent, of course, since every piece of real estate is unique. But I do recall, and other people have mentioned, when you wisely denied the conversion of 442 Main Street, and then you granted a special permit for apartment use upstairs, and I helped you and you helped me jump through some hoops to do that, but you did because you knew it was an appropriate land use to accomplish. But what about 416 Main Street next door? Now, the owners there have objected to this proposal, but to refresh my memory, I went back and watched the hearing from July of 2016. It was most instructive. One member of the board who still serves on this board said that these properties are part of a link to the commercial walking zone. He said you need adjacent properties to keep a business district healthy, especially one designed for walking. He said that every treatise on land use and economics made that same point. Another member of the board who's no longer on the board said that understood that thought, but, quote, we haven't heard from the owners of those other stores. Well, rather plainly today, you have heard from the owners of those other stores. Another member, a former member of the board, Don Freeman, used to keep a little map in every hearing. He'd put check marks where people were writing from or concerned about. You've heard from owners up and down Main Street, not just my clients, tenants, or other people, but from one end of Main Street to the other, from Mark August, from where the sidewalk ends, from the tail of the cod, from the Artful Hand, from Taylor Brown, from people who were coming to Main Street, like Chatham Perk, all of whom feel that this is not an appropriate land use. And if, as has been said, our downtown businesses have had a couple of difficult years, with COVID and everything else and the electronic economy, it makes no sense to make their struggle even marginally harder by effectively cutting off the stores to the east of this property. It was also said in today's paper that it, quote, makes more economic sense for it to be a residence than a business. For whom? Not for the town of Chatham. If we're thinking about economic sense, though, it makes absolutely no economic sense for us to be constructing a parking lot with restrooms to serve our downtown businesses and their clientele at a cost of a couple of $1 million further east of this property if we're going to begin to turning it into a residential area. I don't think we want to spend that money to have it as an overflow for guests at this 5,000 square foot residence. The real estate market and profit motives ought not govern land use decisions or those of this board, and knowing this board, I don't think that they will. This proposal needs to meet two separate sets of criteria. One is to a change of nonconformity. It has to be found to be not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. And also the broader special permit requirements of being in keeping with the purpose and harmony and intent of the bylaw. It fails as to the first because the site plainly isn't adequate for a home of this size. We're tripling the size of the home. You wouldn't allow that in a residential zone. I don't recall you ever having allowed that, tripling the size, the footprint. And when I don't know what the gross floor area is, but it's a lot more than triple what that little building that is there right now. It is not consistent or compatible with surrounding land uses, almost all of which are commercial, and the scale and impact on the streetscape are problematic. As to the general requirements or the requirements of a general special permit, that it be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the bylaw. The purpose and intent of the bylaw could not be more direct, that downtown is to be a general business zone. GB1 and GB2, there are very few residences down there. The ones that are east of here largely were residential to one degree of another, like the Priscilla House and things like that, and I won't go into ancient history. But our bylaw has both inherently and explicitly created a downtown business district, and it would indeed be detrimental to the established character of the neighborhood. And I would remind you also that our bylaw says the considerations which are set forth have to be considered as a minimum. There are others you can consider. So while it is true that the GB zone doesn't have a coverage requirement, if we're going to allow residential uses, as has been said by several commenters here today, we should use those of the adjacent R20 zone. So 15% would be the maximum allowed coverage for a residence in the GB zone. There's another broader consideration that I know applies to every decision you make. It's a simple question: is it the right thing? In this case, it is plainly not the right thing. You've heard from people all over our town. You've heard from people who are only summer visitors. But most importantly, you've heard from the abutters. You've heard from Tom and Carol O'Dell and the Royals next door. You've heard from people who are in business across the street. Several of them are here in the rear row. They don't work for my clients. They don't have an economic tie to this. They have a deep concern, yes, about their own livelihood, but the livelihood of a vibrant downtown Main Street, particularly at the east end. It would not be a good thing for land use, for community economics, or the purpose and intent of our bylaw to grant this special permit, and I urge you not to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Litchfield. So, could you show me, just raise your hand if you would like to speak? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I guess. Okay. I'll make you a deal. I will give Mr. Riley a couple of minutes for a rebuttal over everything he's heard so far. I could then ask for a straw vote, so you could see, if we were going to vote right now, how it would turn out. And if you don't like what you see, then I'd be happy to go back and have you deliver whatever it is that you'd like to speak on. So you folks tell me, is that fair to you? Because, is that fair?
Can we allow them to get our letters on record?
Oh, sure.
Send them to
Oh,
Sarah?
sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. If you give them to Sarah, they would become part of it. So I think that's what I'd like to do, because we can beat this horse a long time, but I'm not too sure we're gaining anything, okay?
Do you want to check the team audience as well?
I don't think so.
Because there's potentially 3 people, but I'm not sure.
Well, I would offer them the ability to speak, if it came to that, sure, just as I would anybody here, okay? So, Mr. Riley, a quick rebuttal, please.
All right, so I think the one thing I wanted to point out is we don't believe that, and like a lot of social media things, the people who were responding were aware of the facts, namely that the Historic Commission has deemed the building as not salvageable, that the HBDC agreed with that determination, and that the HBDC approved the plans that were submitted. So I think that, it's important for that, and finally, again, I really don't think the economic world that is the Chatham Business Zone is going to end if this property becomes residential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. So now I'll ask the members, and remember the voting, and this is not a vote, it's just, if you had to vote right this minute, it's a straw vote. In order to be successful, they need to get 4 of the 5 voters, and the 5 voters, as you've seen, are Buck, Paul, myself, and the other 2 Daves. So I will say, if you were voting this minute, Buck, down. Bill?
Can I make a suggestion? I had a couple of questions that I would like to ask, perhaps before we do a straw vote, so that if we have any other information we need to get out, we can at least get that out.
Okay. Okay.
And my question really in part is, and this would be addressed either to Bill or perhaps to Bill Marsh, what is the reason why, or is there a reason why, this property could not be developed as a commercial property or a mixed-use property?
There's no reason why it couldn't be. The point we're trying to make earlier is that it's been for sale for 5 years, and people who, but over 20 people have looked at it and made a determination that they couldn't make a go of it, or it didn't make financial sense. So it's sort of the reality of what we've observed. Clearly, the building could be rebuilt, as some people suggested, business in the front, apartments in the back, apartments on top. Clearly, that's an option. I'm not, wouldn't pretend that it isn't. It's just the only person who's willing to buy it didn't want to do that. So that's why we're here.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we're going back. So, Buck, you vote?
I'm not inclined to support it.
Not inclined. Okay, Bill, if you were voting?
If I were voting, I would definitely not be inclined to support it.
Megan?
If I were voting, I would definitely not support it.
Paul?
I'm in the same boat. I would not support it either.
Dave T?
I would definitely not support this.
Randy?
Randy is not in support of it.
Dave Veach?
No, looking at it all, from even initially looking at it, I have not been able to support it, find a reason to support it, no.
And as for myself, I was that one voter in 2016 who voted no on the dog store. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anybody else to agree with me. But it changed when the shoe store came up. So, Mr. Riley, that's an unbelievably unanimous.
Well, and I'm happy that I've brought you all together here today to speak with one voice.
So, may I suggest
Yeah,
that...
we would request a withdrawal without prejudice.
Okay.
I'll move to grant the requested withdrawal without prejudice.
Dave Veach seconds.
So we need a vote on that. Buck?
I approve.
Paul?
I approve.
Dave?
Dave Thompson approves.
Dave?
Veach approves.
And I approve. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to speak, but you never know, this could be another time. And thank you for being understanding, but sometimes you can just say too much. And thank you again. Okay. All right, we need to, Paul, how about?
How about a motion to adjourn? I move to adjourn.
Dave Veach seconds.
All right, we'll all vote on that. Buck?
Buck votes yes.
Joe?
Bill votes yes.
Megan?
Megan votes yes.
Paul?
Paul votes yes.
Dave?
Thompson votes yes.
Yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
And I vote yes. We are stand adjourned. Okay, Judy, come on forward.